The Strongest Sect. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 326, The Law of the Jungle. After killing the leopard beast with one punch, Jun Changxiao used the cold sword to cut his chest and found that there was no crystal core, so he walked towards the danger zone. He was attacked by a fierce beast just after entering, which meant that there were many in the mountains, and he was not in a hurry to reserve food for Xiaolanglang. Sect leader Jun left. The small team behind was collectively confused. After a long time, the fat man's mouth twitched and said, "Boss, that seems to be a middle 4th grade golden pattern leopard." "Yes," the leader said solemnly, "it's a golden pattern leopard." Hiss. Everyone gasped. A fierce beast comparable to a 4th grade martial artist was killed by that guy with one punch. This is simply too terrible. The strongest in the small team is only a 1st grade martial artist. Jun Changxiao killed the middle 4th grade golden pattern leopard with one punch, which shocked them strongly. The leader guessed to be able to kill the golden pattern leopard in seconds. This little brother's cultivation must be above the 6th or 7th grade martial artist. The man who had previously criticized Jun Changxiao blushed. After all, he only had the cultivation of a peak martial artist, but he said that a strong man who could kill a golden leopard in seconds was a burden. Other members were also slapped in the face. Brother Kim said that Jun Changxiao should join. Although everyone didn't say it, they all looked at him with contempt. As a result, he is a master. Brother Kim said, if he can join our team and enter the 6th area together, we will definitely return with a full load. Hey. He sighed and said, let's go. I'll go peel the skin and bones of the golden leopard. A member ran over and peeled off the fur and bones. Jun Changxiao also wanted to take it away, but the space ring had to reserve a lot of food for Xiaolanglang, so it confiscated the skin and bones of this low-level beast. The middle 4 grades are all low-level, and Master Jun is a little arrogant. There are many areas in the 10,000 Beasts mountain range. The first few are relatively safe and have been explored by humans for many years, and there are basically no valuable things. Jun Changxiao directly locked on the deeper areas because few people set foot there. Not only are there rich resources, but also a large number of high-level beasts. Roar. On the road, a ferocious beast pounced. Puff. Jun Changxiao swung his sword and directly cut off the head and cut open the chest to obtain a crystal core. This is the most valuable thing on the ferocious beast. Even if the level of the one killed is not high, he will not leave it for others to pick up. More than 10 minutes. Jun Changxiao quickly entered the 3rd area. If the explorers saw this, they would definitely admire it. In the 10,000 Beasts mountain range, walking so fast, aren't you afraid of attracting more attention from ferocious beasts? To be honest, along the way, it really alarmed a lot of ferocious beasts. As a result, one died one after another, which was completely giving away heads and crystal cores. There is no way. After they died, I realized that this lone human was so powerful. Jun Changxiao put the good meat into the space ring and left it to Xiaolanglang as food and ignored the poor meat. The small team behind was going to the 6th area, which happened to be on his way. Every time they walked for a while, they could see a fresh corpse of a fierce beast, so their mouths twitched. Boss, the fat man said, could it be that young man in white who killed it? The leader touched the corpse of the fierce beast and felt the residual heat, saying, it was not long after it died, so he must have killed it. The fat man's mouth twitched and said, there is no trace of fighting at all. It must have been killed in seconds. Master, absolutely master. No wonder he dared to enter the 10,000 Beasts mountain range alone. It's a pity that such a strong master couldn't join our team. In every area of the 10,000 Beasts mountain range, there are small teams that entered in advance. They either walked cautiously or fought with fierce beasts. Jun Changxiao would occasionally encounter them. However, what really broadened his horizons was, in a place away from the mountains and forests, several warriors with good cultivation blocked another team and forced them to hand over their space rings. Hey. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, in the mountains and forests, we must not only beware of fierce beasts, but also beware of our own kind. He didn't bother to meddle in other people's business and continued to move forward. Since you have chosen to enter the 10,000 Beasts mountain range, everyone should be prepared to die, even if they are killed by ferocious beasts, or even if they are killed by their own kind. Jun Changxiao's mentality now is that he is not a chivalrous person, and it has nothing to do with him if others are in danger. Of course, if it were his own disciples who dared to rob, he would kill them directly. It is not uncommon for martial artists with bad intentions to rob other teams. Look. When Jun Changxiao came to the fourth area, he saw several corpses lying in the distance. 3 warriors with the cultivation level of martial artists were searching for the space rings on them. No need to think. They must have been unable to get the rings back and killed them. A middle-aged man with a fierce look on his face suddenly turned his head and said in a deep voice, "Who is hiding in the dark?" Jun Changxiao walked out and said, "I said I was passing by. Do you believe it? Passing by?" The middle-aged man smiled grimly and said, "In my opinion, you should be an accomplice of this team." Swish, swish. The other 2 warriors immediately surrounded him, their eyes full of murderous intent. It was a big misunderstanding. Jun Changxiao said, "So, you want to kill for money? To kill for money?" A warrior who came over raised his sword and slashed over, sneering, "You are wrong. This is the law of the jungle." Swish. The sword flashed by. Jun Changxiao had already circled behind him without knowing when. The cold sword in his hand flashed with light, and he said, "That makes sense." Zzzz. The warrior stood in place. His neck was cut, blood splattered, and he fell down immediately. Third brother. The 2 warriors were furious. However, the one closest to Jun Changxiao felt a chill on his neck before he could make a move, and his mind was instantly wiped out. Plop. He fell to the ground with a loud bang. Blood splattered. Second brother. The middle-aged man screamed in grief. But he still had absolute rationality, realizing that his opponent was very strong, and hurried to the dark. As soon as he got into the bushes, he raised his hands and retreated, because Jun Changxiao's cold sword was already on his neck. "Friend," the middle-aged man said in horror, I'm willing to hand over the space ring. Remember, Jun Changxiao said in a cold voice, "This is a world where the strong prey on the weak." Puff. The sword flashed and cut his throat. The middle-aged man covered his neck, which was gushing with blood, his eyes filled with fear of death, and finally he collapsed to the ground. Jun Changxiao searched the space rings on the 3 people and continued to go deeper. The 3 martial artists were strong and ate up a small team, and the even stronger sect master Jun ate them. This is the law of the jungle. TSK. On the way, he flipped through several space rings and found that there were many crystal cores and skin bones in them. Jun Changxiao sighed with infinite emotion. Robbery is a promising business. He was just thinking about it and didn't plan to rob. After all, as the leader of a faction, if he did such a thing, it would definitely damage his reputation if it was spread out. But Jun Changxiao stopped and held his chin and said, "I can rob those robbers. Not only can I get good things, but even if I'm recognized, I can still have a good reputation." Chapter 327. I'm not strong enough. I deserve to die. Jun Changxiao returned to the remote forest he had just passed by. He wanted to rob those warriors who robbed others and take back all the space rings. In a beautiful name. If you are unkind to others, I will be unjust to you. Bang, bang. In the previous area, several robbers had already fought with a small team of warriors in the forest. Because of the disparity in strength, the small team was already at a disadvantage. Swish. Jun Changxiao rushed over with the Zangan step, snatched the weapons of the robbers with his bare hands, and kicked them to the ground one by one. Their strength was only that of a martial arts apprentice, and it was easy to kill them. Suddenly, a master came to help them out of trouble, and the eyes of the warriors in the small team were immediately filled with gratitude. This little friend. The leading warrior bowed and said, "Thank you for your help." Jun Changxiao said, "Draw your sword to help when you see injustice on the road. It is what people in the rivers and lakes should do." Everyone stood in awe. In this day and age, chivalrous people are really rare. The leader wanted to speak, but Sect Master Jun said, "This place is full of ferocious beasts. It is not suitable to stay for long. You should leave quickly. Thank you for your kindness. Goodbye." The leader left with several members in a hurry. After they left, Jun Changxiao stepped on the robber warrior who was lying on the ground pretending to be dead and said with a cold look, "Hand over the space ring and I will spare your life." If the warriors who left heard this, they would definitely collapse. Big brother, are you just seeing injustice or do you want to rob them? I handed over. Several warriors realized that their lives were threatened and hurriedly handed over the space rings on their bodies. There were quite a few, more than 10, and it seemed that they had robbed many people. Get out. Sect Master Jun aimed at the space rings. Since he got them, he would naturally not be cruel and kill them. Damn it. After several warriors ran away, holding their stomachs, they squatted under a tree and were very angry. Brother. One person said, I can't swallow this. Damn it. The boss said angrily, dare to rob our Blood Wolf mercenary group. That pretty boy is tired of living. There are many forces in the Starfall continent, such as families, sects, and an organization called a mercenary group. At the beginning, when I participated in the fantasy boss essay contest, I wanted to write a novel in which the protagonist is the leader of a mercenary group, leading a group of younger brothers to various dungeons to fight monsters. Later, I chose the head of the sect, and then I had the current Iron Bone Sect. Am I proud? The mercenary groups in the Starfall continent are similar to the Earth mercenary group, mainly accepting commissions from others. But they also need a lot of martial arts resources, so coming to the mountains and forests to hunt beasts has become their main means of livelihood. Of course, most of the members of the mercenary group are recruited from casual cultivators, and they are not as professional as the sects, and their overall strength is not high. At present, the three most well-known mercenary groups can only compete with the fifth-rate sects in terms of level. The Blood Wolf mercenary group that the warrior mentioned is quite powerful, with nearly 1,000 members. The senior members are also very strong, and have been active in the 10,000 Beasts mountain range for many years. This mercenary group not only hunts fierce beasts, but also robs casual cultivators. It can be said to be the overlord of the 10,000 Beasts mountain range. Gauzy, the boss said angrily, contact the people nearby and gather together. We can't let that guy run away. Yes. The subordinate who called Gauzy took out something like firecrackers and held it high, and a stream of light rushed up. Jun Changxiao, who had just left not long ago, looked up and saw the stream of light flashing between the trees and murmured, one arrow piercing the clouds. Thousands of troops come to meet. He ignored it and continued to look through the more than 10 space rings he had just obtained. Although Master Jun has just come in not long, he has obtained a lot of crystal cores, medicinal materials and ores from the two gangs of robbers. Unfortunately, there is no wind crystal core. There are no medicinal materials and ores suitable for refining elixir equipment. Jun Chang smiled and said, I can only look for it myself. Behind him, members of the Blood Wolf mercenary group in other areas gathered after seeing the signal. In a short while, 50 or 60 people gathered. Xiaoding. One person said in a deep voice, what happened? Deputy Captain Zhang. The man named Xiaoding covered his stomach and said, a guy robbed us. Mercenaries are usually divided into groups according to captains. Each team has a captain and a deputy captain, and has fixed members. This deputy Captain Zhang is the deputy captain of the third team of the Blood Wolf mercenary group. He is quite strong, and has reached the level of a third-grade martial artist. The few people robbed by Jun Changxiao, as well as the warriors who gathered here, are all members of Team 3. Deputy Captain Zhang said angrily, you are so bold that you dare to rob my Blood Wolf mercenary group. Lead the way. He said coldly, go find that guy. Xiaoding said, the captain and the second and third brothers haven't come yet. Do you want to wait for them to come together? The boy is strong, so he naturally wants to bring more people, to let the other party understand that there is a price to pay for helping the injustice. The captain and the others should go deeper into the area. Let's chase them first, so as not to let that guy run away. Deputy Captain Zhang said. Okay. Xiaoding hurriedly led the way and chased after Jun Changxiao's departure. It's the Blood Wolf mercenary group. Why are there so many people gathered? They are all fierce and evil. Could it be that someone has offended them? Deputy Captain Zhang led his men to gallop through the mountains and forests with great momentum, which immediately alarmed many small teams. Jun Changxiao returned along the same path and continued to move deeper. If there was a fierce beast rushing over, he would kill it instantly and take away the crystal core. Not long after, he arrived at the area where the 3 people were killed just now. Just at this moment, Deputy Captain Zhang and dozens of his men caught up. Xiaoding pointed at Jun Changxiao and said angrily, "It's him." Swish, swish, swish. The mercenary group members rushed over with agility and surrounded Jun Changxiao, staring at him fiercely. Deputy Captain Zhang. At this moment, a member pointed at the corpse next to him and said in surprise, "It's the captain." What? Deputy Captain Zhang came over and recognized at a glance that the corpse was really the captain. It turned out that the 3 warriors that Master Jun had killed before were the captain of the 3rd team of the Blood Wolf mercenary group and his 2 brothers. I have to say, it's a great fate. Boy. Deputy Captain Zhang looked over and shouted angrily, "Did you kill them?" "Yes," Jun Changxiao said. As soon as these words came out, 50 or 60 members of the 3rd team were furious. Deputy Captain Zhang summoned a pair of axes and said with murderous intent, "Kill someone and pay with your life, owe a debt, and pay it back." He said this, but he was happy in his heart. Now that the captain is dead, can't he be promoted to a regular employee? Get rid of the murderer who killed the captain, go back and report to the head of the group, and you will definitely be rewarded. Ha ha ha. Boy, you helped me so much, as a token of gratitude, so, just die. Jun Changxiao didn't know the other party's psychological activities, but said lightly, "You are not strong enough, you deserve to die." There is nothing wrong with what he said, and it is very consistent with the law of the jungle. Stop talking nonsense. Deputy Captain Zhang took a step forward, and the 2 axes chopped down with great force, and shouted angrily, "Come and die." Chapter 328. Your worthless life will not be spared twice. The captain was dead, and Deputy Captain Zhang was very happy. But he certainly couldn't show it, so when he swung the axe, his face was filled with endless anger. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, "If there is a road to heaven, you don't take it, and there is no door to hell." Swish. As he spoke, he stepped on the cloud stepping step to approach. What a fast speed. Deputy Captain Zhang's face changed slightly. The next second, he suddenly felt something was wrong. Not good. Boom. The fist with strong power hit his abdomen faster than the axe, causing his body to suddenly bend and his eyeballs to bulge out. Jun Changxiao's explosive punch was very powerful, and it directly interrupted Deputy Captain Zhang's thinking and body. At that moment, he felt that he was going to die. Bang, bang. A pair of axes fell to the ground, and Deputy Captain Zhang fell down weakly, and then vomited blood, and lost his breath. As expected of an old mercenary who had experienced life and death, he felt that he was very accurate. Deputy Captain Zhang was just thinking that, if he killed this guy, he would not only be promoted to captain, but also receive a reward in front of the head of the group. As a result, to show gratitude, die first. Jun Changxiao retracted his fist, his eyes full of indifference. The other party was in a group with 3 robbers, and he did not hold back at all, so he killed him with 1 punch. Jun Changxiao would not kill innocent people indiscriminately, but for those who want to kill him, he would definitely give them back in their own way. Deputy Captain Zhang. Seeing Deputy Captain Zhang lying on the ground motionless, his eyes were dilated. Everyone suddenly realized that he was killed by a punch. That guy can kill the captain. Killing the deputy captain is not easy. At that moment, the IQ of the members of the Blood Wolf mercenary group returned collectively. Deputy Captain Zhang could have thought of it, but at that time he was concerned about how to become a regular employee and how to get rewards. For a while, his brain did not turn around at all. The deputy captain was killed. Although the members of the Blood Wolf mercenary group were still surrounding Jun Changxiao, fear had already risen in their hearts, and they unconsciously retreated. Especially Xiaoding. At this moment, they were already full of horror. He ordered his younger brother to send a signal to gather his companions, so that the guy could experience despair. He never thought that Deputy Captain Zhang would be killed in a single encounter. This guy is a tough guy. He can't afford to offend him. Xiaoding finally realized that he had kicked the iron plate. Swish. Jun Changxiao appeared in front of him, clasped one hand on his neck, and said with a cold look, "I won't spare your worthless life twice. Don't kill." Snap. Jun Changxiao used his 5 fingers to twist Xiaoding's neck directly and threw him out like garbage. He could have lived well, but he came to take revenge, not only killing himself, but also Deputy Captain Zhang. Jun Changxiao looked at the others and said grimly, "Who wants to die?" 3 words. Domineering. "Damn it." A member said bravely, "Let's go together and hack this guy to death." Okay. Although everyone was afraid of Jun Changxiao's strength, they were in large numbers and didn't believe that they couldn't kill him if they rushed forward. Kill. Kill. More than 50 members of the Blood Wolf mercenary group poured their spiritual power into their swords and angrily killed them. Clang. The cold sword was unsheathed, and the sword light flashed out. With one sword, more than 10 members of the Blood Wolf mercenary group who rushed over stopped in their tracks, their eyes full of despair. Swish. Jun Changxiao shook his wrist and slashed to the side again. As the sword light flashed, more than 10 members stood still, and the life breath in their eyes began to dissipate. Zzzz. After a while, more than 20 warriors had fine marks on their necks, and blood splashed out. Plop. Plop. At the same time, all fell to the ground. Seeing this, the Blood Wolf mercenaries who rushed up later felt a chill running down their souls and spines, and their scalps were so scared that they almost exploded. Killing more than 20 people with 2 swords is absolutely terrifying. No, this guy is too strong, and going up is just sending him to death. The remaining members of the Blood Wolf mercenary group, not caring about revenge for the captain and deputy captain, fled in fear. In an instant, there were only dozens of corpses left in the area. Blood was flowing all over the ground, and it smelled pungent. Clang. Jun Changxiao put away his sword and started to loot. Soon, he got dozens of space rings and left in style. It can be said that, kill one person every 10 steps and leave no trace in 1,000 miles. After the work is done, leave with no merit and fame. My god, that guy actually dared to kill the people of the Blood Wolf mercenary group like this. The deputy captain was also killed. Look, there's the body of the captain of Team 3 lying next to him. Who is this guy? Isn't he afraid of revenge from the Blood Wolf mercenaries? When Jun Changxiao was surrounded by Deputy Captain Zhang and others, some of the braver teams followed quietly and witnessed the whole process. Some martial artists are strong and may not be afraid of the Blood Wolf mercenaries. However, they dared to massacre them like this and kill the captain. Even if they were given 10 courages, they would not dare. The small team that entered the 10,000 Beasts mountain range before Jun Changxiao was also among them, and the expressions on their faces were more exciting than each other. Boss. The fat man twitched his mouth and said, "That guy's really fierce." Brother Qin said solemnly, "This is a ruthless character. Fortunately, I didn't offend him." The man who regarded Jun Changxiao as a burden secretly felt fortunate that the other party did not care about it at the time, otherwise his end would definitely be the same as those corpses. The Blood Wolf mercenaries have been the king of the 10,000 Beasts mountain range for a long time. Today, so many people were suddenly killed, which was unexpected by all kinds of martial artists. They also knew the Blood Wolf mercenary group leader has a cruel character, so he will never give up. The young man in white will definitely be retaliated. Jun Changxiao actually hopes that they will come for revenge because he counted dozens of space rings on the way and obtained a lot of resources. Especially in Deputy Captain Zhang's ring, there are still 20 spirit stones. TSK. Jun Changxiao couldn't help but sigh. Robbery is really profitable. What a pity. There are many resources, but not what he wants. Robbery is indeed a quick way to make money, but if you want to find a match, you have to find it yourself. Swish. Jun Changxiao opened the map, determined his position based on the terrain, and then set his sights on the blank area between the 2 areas, which was circled by a red circle. This is an unknown area. The red circle means extreme danger. The more dangerous, the more worth exploring. Jun Changxiao followed the map instructions and stopped at the edge of the unknown area. There was a light mist in front, which was out of tune with the surrounding environment. There were a few footprints left on the ground, indicating that few people had set foot there. After a little consideration, Jun Changxiao stepped in. Fuck. A warrior who happened to pass by nearby saw him blending into the mist and exclaimed, "That guy entered the unknown area alone." TSK. His companion said, "This kind of dangerous place, big teams dare not set foot in it. Isn't he looking for death if he goes in?" Roar, roar. Not long after, the mist filled the unknown area, and roars were heard one after another, shaking the surrounding leaves. It must have alarmed the beasts inside. From the sound, it seems that there is more than one. This kind of unknown area is mostly inhabited by group living beasts. That kid must be dead. Hey, isn't it good to be alive? Why do you have to go in and die? Teams passed by one after another, and were surprised to learn that a young man in white had entered the unknown area. Some guessed that he might be a member of the Blood Wolf mercenary group, so they stopped where they were, resting and discussing. About 10 minutes. In the unknown area shrouded in mist, the roars of the beasts gradually weakened, until they returned to calm. It's over. That poor guy must have been eaten to the point where not even his bones were left. As everyone was getting ready to leave, a warrior exclaimed, "Look, someone is coming out." Swish, swish. Everyone turned their heads. In the mist, a figure walked out with a sword in hand. It was him, the young man in white. Chapter 329. Coming and going freely in unknown areas. The unknown area was not big, like a small valley, with dozens of jackals in it, with strength of the second or third level. When Jun Changxiao just walked in, he was surrounded by them, and they bared their teeth and roared. Although they were not wine-type beasts, they were valuable, because of their high level. So Sect Master Jun used the first-grade cold sword, to kill them all in a very short time, and obtained more than 20 crystal cores. The fur and bones were also taken away. The poor jackals thought they were surrounding a human, but they were surrounded by a human. The unknown area was not big. Jun Changxiao turned around, took away the medicinal materials and minerals, and returned. The warriors outside did not know about it. Seeing him walk out safely, their faces suddenly showed an incredible expression. "Boss," the fat man said in surprise, "it's that guy." Brother Qin frowned, and his mind was shocked again. The unknown area of the 10,000 Beasts mountain range, even the 4th and 5th grade martial arts masters did not dare to set foot easily. He not only went in, but also came out safely, which was incredible. Jun Changxiao ignored the warriors who were looking at him, took out the map, locked onto another unknown area, and walked along the route. When he left, a small team mustered up the courage to enter the misty area. Seeing the corpses of fierce beasts all over the ground, their expressions suddenly froze. This is a group of brown jackals. Each one is of the 2nd or 3rd grade. My god, in less than a quarter of an hour, he killed them all by himself? Everyone was shocked. Who is this young man who looks only 18 or 19 years old? Although I don't know who Jun Changxiao is, one thing is certain, he is definitely a master. With him leading the way in front, I will definitely be able to get into deeper areas. So, many warriors chased after him, and followed closely behind Jun Changxiao. There were dozens of them. Brother Qin and his team followed. Soon, everyone stopped, because Jun Changxiao had entered the second unknown area. He went in again. He is really brave. I really want to follow him and see. Although the warriors were discussing, no one dared to enter the unknown area, because they knew they didn't have the ability. Not long after, another roar of a beast was heard. From the heavy sound, it should be a huge bear beast. Could it be a mountain bear? Even if it's not a mountain bear, it must be stronger than it. While everyone was discussing, Jun Changxiao walked out of the unknown area, still intact. The major teams were dumbfounded. After coming to their senses, they entered the unknown area one after another, only to see blood on the ground, but no corpse. The meat of the bear beast was excellent and the portion was sufficient, so Jun Changxiao cut it into pieces, and took it away. Until the night fell, Jun Changxiao entered 5 unknown areas in succession, killed many high-grade beasts, and obtained a lot of resources. In particular, in the last unknown area, he encountered a wind beast. Although the crystal core level was not up to par, it undoubtedly brought him hope. Keep looking, you will definitely find it. Following the major teams behind, because there were masters leading the way, they entered the area they wanted to go safely, and the number of people was gradually decreasing. Qin and the others were still there. After all, they had to go to the deeper 6th area. Jun Changxiao ignored this kind of freeloader. The next morning, he set out, and continued to go deeper into the 5th area. In this area, there are many dangerous places marked on the map. He chose the nearest one to enter first. Roar. Two male and female lion beasts of the 7th grade rushed over. This is their territory, and naturally they cannot tolerate humans entering. Looking for death. Jun Changxiao stepped out, and his fists gathered violent power, and directly killed the 2 lions. The old rules. Skinning, meat, and crystal core digging one-stop service. After finishing his work, Jun Changxiao found a pool of water in the depths, with a faint chill lingering on it. Cold spring. He walked over, and reached his hand down, feeling the coldness. The auxiliary material for refining the middle grade cold sword is cold spring water. Since he found it, he must take it all away. Swish. After a while, the bottom of the pool was visible. Jun Changxiao left with satisfaction, and continued to explore several other unknown areas. In this way, he was busy until night fell, and found a clean place to rest for the night. Today I had a great harvest. Not only did I find enough cold spring water, but I also encountered a spider nest. After destroying it, I got a lot of spider silk. I had enough materials for the soft silk armor. What a pity. I didn't encounter any wind beasts. After automatically refining the soft silk armor, Jun Changxiao took back the panel of the foundry pavilion and murmured, "It seems that we can only find this rare beast by going deeper into the area." Badgie. Xiao Lang next to him was happily chewing a piece of fat meat. In the past 2 days, Master Jun has selected a lot of high quality beast meat for it, so it will not be short of food for the time being. Xiao Lang. Jun Changxiao said, "Come to this mountain full of beasts, don't lie down all the time, at least show some performance." Xiao Lang swallowed a piece of meat, and his fiery red eyes showed disdain, as if telling his master, "The beasts here are too low level, and not qualified for me to fight." That's right. Blast the 2nd grade martial king. It's a bit cheap to bully the beasts at the level of martial apprentices and martial masters. Kinje and others who were resting behind him were absolutely in awe of Junzang at this moment. How powerful it is to come and go freely in the unknown area. The next day, Jun Changxiao continued his journey and entered the 6th area. Kinje and his team stopped following and headed in the opposite direction. They were different from the casual cultivators in Death Valley. They were not here to pick up leaks, but came in with a purpose and plan. Plop. In an unknown area, a fierce beast comparable to a peak martial artist fell to the ground. After dealing with the corpse, Jun Changxiao searched inside and obtained a lot of aged medicinal herbs and a variety of ores. Night fell. After visiting the 5 unknown areas, he obtained a lot of resources, including cold iron ore and other ores for refining weapons and equipment. There is still 50 kilograms missing. Jun Changxiao murmured, "Then I can refine the middle grade cold sword." The 7th area. Jun Changxiao entered on the 4th day. There are very few teams that can enter here. After walking in it for half a day, I didn't see anyone. Few people. But there are many fierce beasts. After walking a few miles, Jun Changxiao was attacked no less than 30 times. The level of the attacking fierce beasts was also very high, and there were even those comparable to the 1st grade martial arts master level, but they all ended up sending heads and crystal cores. Jun Changxiao opened the map, and found that there was only one unknown area marked. He couldn't help wondering, so few? It's not that there are few. It's that the level of the 7th area is too high. The map maker didn't dare to risk his life to break in, so he could only record the one he knew. So that means there are many dangerous areas that are not marked on the map. Jun Changxiao can only explore by himself. Entering the only unknown area marked on the map, cold air blew in the face, and the ground was covered with layers of frost. Jun Changxiao guessed, could it be that there are ice beasts here? Tram. Just at this moment, a lion-like beast stepped on the frost on the ground and walked over. It was 4 or 5 meters tall, its eyes flashed with cold light, its whole body seemed to be piled with ice, and even its mane looked like ice chips. In one word, handsome. Chapter 330. The contract is signed, and the ice crystal lion beast is subdued. Host. The system said, "This is a high-grade ice crystal lion beast, and its rarity is no less than that of the purple lightning tiger cub." You actually know that? Jun Changxiao was quite surprised. It has been following him all day, has never traveled to the outside world, and has never read any books. How can it know this rare beast? The system explained. I have been releasing radio waves, capturing and analyzing the Starfall continent, so I know all the beasts well. Really? Jun Changxiao said. Then tell me, what kind of beast is a little wild boar I captured? This? The system was speechless. It analyzed the beasts that have been known in the Starfall continent. Some of them are not recorded in books, so they are definitely unknown. Roar. At this moment, the ice crystal lion beast roared angrily, and a colder wind suddenly rolled in. What a pity. Jun Chang smiled and said, I don't have the master ball, otherwise I would definitely subdue this guy. But, he paused, his eyes burning, and said, in a freezing environment, it must be suitable for cold iron to grow. The ice crystal lion beast was not friendly. After roaring, the cold air suddenly condensed around its body, and then turned into a huge ice cone and stabbed over. Because it was a high-grade second-grade beast and a rare ice beast, Jun Chang smiled to give it a face, stimulated 70% of his spiritual energy, and raised his fist to blast it. Bang! The powerful fist directly smashed the incoming ice cone, and countless ice cubes were scattered everywhere. The ice crystal lion beast looked surprised, obviously did not expect that this young boy would be so strong. Roar. It raised its head and roared, and the ice cubes scattered on the ground trembled. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, dense ice cubes flew up and gathered in the air, flashing a faint white light. TSK. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. This guy's use of ice attributes is much better than my purple lightning tiger cub. Nonsense. The ice crystal lion beast has grown up. The purple lightning tiger cub is only in the growth period now, and its control of lightning is definitely not as good as his. Swish swish swish. At this moment, the suspended ice cubes burst out like sharp arrows. Snap. Jun Changxiao clasped his hands together, quickly made a complex hand seal, and then pushed his palms into the void and shouted, Fire Control Art. Whoosh. Hot flames erupted from his palms, and suddenly formed a vast momentum. Although the fire control art that Master Jun had brushed out in the Death Valley had never been used, he had never stopped practicing and comprehending it. Now facing the ice beast, it was just right to use it. In theory, ice overcomes fire, but the flames that Jun Changxiao burst out instantly burned and melted all the dense ice cubes that attacked. The ice crystal lion beast looked a little daunted. Intuition told it that this human's flame was extraordinary. Yes, Jun Changxiao's flame is very strong, named Linglang Fire. This kind of fire is not the best in the Xinjiang continent, but it is also of the best quality, which is the dream of countless fire warriors. Master Jun's Linglang Fire is not only strong, but also has a very strong understanding of it. Why? Because every time he refines pills and weapons, he will use Linglang Fire, which invisibly improves his proficiency in flames. The speed of refining first grade healing pills, body shaping pills and other pills is obviously much faster than at the beginning. And this is the best proof of the improvement of flame proficiency. It can be said that, although Jun Changxiao has not practiced the fire system, he is already an outstanding fire martial artist, just by refining pills and casting. Others work hard to comprehend and make the flames gradually stronger. He is good. Mechanized alchemy and casting, and also improved proficiency. If fire martial artists know this, they will definitely be envious, and vomit dozens of liters of blood. Come on. Jun Changxiao said heroically, let's have a good fight. Whoosh. Both fists were enveloped by flames, the surrounding temperature increased, and the frost on the ground was melted. The little dragon lying on the shoulder felt the flames of the master, his eyes flashed red, and he also erupted his own flames. It is a fire beast, and Jun Changxiao released the flames, which resonated with it. One person and one beast erupted the flames together, and the resulting heat spread to the surroundings, melting more frost. Seeing such a powerful flame, the fear in the eyes of the ice crystal lion beast turned into horror. It is true that ice overcomes fire, but when the flame reaches its extreme, it can also overcome ice and evaporate it into nothingness. The flames that Jun Changxiao erupted have reached their extreme, and they have completely suppressed the ice crystal lion beast in terms of momentum. Fierce beasts are different from humans. Realizing that the opponent is powerful, they will definitely not die to save face and hold on. Therefore, the ice crystal lion beast made the most correct choice in the fastest time, wiped the ice on the soles of his feet, and turned to run away. The beasts that attacked Jun Changxiao before were all killed instantly, so they had no time to escape. This is undoubtedly a bit tragic. But, can running solve the problem? Brush. Jun Changxiao followed with his cloud-strong steps, dragging his body with flames. Little ice sculpture, you can't run away. He rushed over with a few steps, leaped directly into the air, and rode on the back of the ice crystal lion beast. His hands covered with flames directly grabbed the ears that looked like ice sculptures. Crack, crack, crack. The hot flames touched the ice and melted it immediately, and ice water flowed down. Roar. The ice crystal lion beast roared miserably. It wanted to mobilize the ice attribute in its body to resist, but as soon as it condensed, it was ruthlessly suppressed by Linglang fire. In desperation, it could only twist its body frantically, trying to throw the human off, but Jun Changxiao's legs pressed tightly, and it couldn't throw it off, no matter how hard it tried. Soon, after running for dozens of meters, a watermark was left on the ground. Boom. The ice crystal lion beast seemed to lose its rationality and began to madly crash into the rocks. Unfortunately, Jun Changxiao was riding on it and still didn't move. Plop. After a while, the ice crystal lion beast collapsed on the ground powerlessly. Its body was still melting, and a large area of water suddenly gathered on the ground. Sect Master Jun was like a big ball of fire, covering a piece of ice. This is really a bit of bullying the beast. Roar. The ice crystal lion beast groaned in pain. As the ice layer on its body was constantly melted by the flames, it felt the breath of death. As a rare ice beast, it was melted to death by the restrained flames. This is really tragic. Little ice sculpture. Jun Changxiao said, if you want to live, become my contracted beast. As he spoke, the intensity of the flames was restrained a lot. It would be a pity to kill such a rare ice beast. It would be best if we could subdue it. Roar. Under the threat of death, the ice crystal lion beast made a weak plea for mercy. How do I sign a contract with it? Jun Changxiao said. The system said, use the host's soul power to establish a connection with its soul. Swish. Jun Changxiao released his soul power and instantly peeked into the trembling soul of the ice crystal lion beast. Gently approached and merged into one. Buzz. Suddenly, two streams of light emerged from the ground, quickly outlining a large pattern. At this time, if a warrior saw it, he would definitely realize that this was a contract formation that appeared only when humans and beasts signed a contract. Swish. The contract formation condensed, and a stream of light like a barrier emerged, covering Jun Changxiao and the ice crystal lion beast. This is the contract signing ceremony. Swish. Just as the two began to sign the contract, Xiao Lang jumped out in advance, paying very careful attention to the entrance, as if protecting his master. It takes a certain amount of time for a warrior to sign a contract with a beast. If you are disturbed by external forces during the process, you will not only fail, but also hurt your soul. Buzz. Buzz. The contract array is surrounded by flowing light. Time passed quietly. It was dark. It was dawn. It was dark again. It was dawn again. Until the third day, the flowing light barrier condensed by the contract array disappeared. The pattern on the ground began to converge, and everything returned to normal. Swish. Jun Changxiao jumped down and panted. Is it so tiring to sign a contract? Caca. The ice crystal lion beast lying on the ground looked in awe, and then lowered its head to him. It's done. Subjugation is successful. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 331. We will be brothers in the next life. Without the Master Ball, relying on the normal signing procedure, Jun Changxiao became the master of the ice crystal lion beast. To be honest, it would be difficult for other strong men to subdue this ice beast. You know, the beast also has pride. Unless it relies on means and powerful soul power, it is difficult to surrender a human. Jun Changxiao is only a second grade martial arts master, and his soul power is definitely not very high. The reason why he succeeded is that he completely subdued the ice crystal lion beast. What is subdued? It is not to abuse it with brute force. Instead, use the fire system to suppress the opponent's ice system. The attributes are restrained, and the result is counter-restrained. The ice crystal lion beast was abused and convinced, and it lost its temper. When Jun Changxiao said to sign the contract, it agreed without hesitation, because this human deserves its surrender. In other words, in subduing the beast, relying on brute force is not enough. First, you have to make it obey you. Suppressing with mutually restraining attributes is one kind of submission, and winning with the same attributes is also a kind of submission. Many different types of martial arts masters, if they have contracted beasts, are mostly of the same attribute as themselves, because they are all defeated, and have no temper to surrender. Roar. After the contract was signed, the ice crystal lion beast let out a weak roar. Although it became a contracted beast, the injuries from the flames have not yet healed. Open your mouth, Jun Changxiao said with a smile. The ice crystal lion opened its big mouth. Jun Changxiao flicked a medium-grade healing pill into it. The system said speechlessly, "This is a pill for people to eat. You give it to the beast." Swish. The ice crystal lion beast suddenly stood up, and its body, which had been thinner, gradually expanded under the diffusion of ice attributes. The system changed its tone and said, "It's not impossible." Swish. Under the conditioning of the healing pill, the ice crystal lion beast, which regained its majestic posture, jumped out from the unknown area. Jun Changxiao, who was sitting on it, was full of smiles, because he not only subdued an ice beast, but also found thousands of kilograms of cold iron ore inside. At this moment, the casting pavilion was already in operation, refining the medium-grade cold sword. Little ice sculpture. Jun Changxiao rode on it, touched its head, and said with a smile, "From today on, this is your name." Roar. The ice crystal lion beast roared. The system said speechlessly, "The host's ability to name the contracted beast is definitely negative. Let's go." Jun Changxiao pointed to a direction and said heroically, "Let's go." Roar. The ice crystal lion beast raised its head and roared again, then stepped on its ice-like limbs and rushed forward. Wherever it passed, the ground was left with patches of frost. There was a fire dragon, a purple lightning tiger cub, and now there was another ice crystal lion beast. Sect Master Jun was in a good mood and almost sang. In the 3 days, when Jun Changxiao signed the contract, a team of 20 people had arrived at the 7th area, and was now fighting with 2 bull-like middle-level 6th grade beasts. From the situation, the two sides were evenly matched. However, this is a 10,000 beasts mountain range, which may alarm other beasts. Unable to take down the 2 big beasts, the crowd became more and more impatient. Heaven and earth are breaking. A burly young man rushed towards a beast with great strength. Whoosh. The spiritual energy in his right fist increased sharply. Boom. A heavy punch hit the beast's head that looked like a bull's head, and it flew away directly. Brother Yi is so awesome. More than a dozen warriors immediately looked at him with admiration. Roar. At this moment, the other beast seemed to be crazy. Its horns flashed with a gloomy light, and then rushed towards the crowd angrily. "Everyone, get out of the way." The young man called Brother Yi shouted. Everyone reacted quickly. They avoided the giant bull beast in advance when it rushed over. But when they saw the big guy running wild, they immediately lost their confidence. These warriors were not very strong. They just relied on the advantage of numbers, and no one dared to have the courage to face a crazy middle-level 6th grade beast alone. Dang dang. The boy called Brother Yi rushed over quickly, and his right fist once again carried a strong force and hit the back fiercely. Bang. The second giant bull beast was blown away. Because of the strong punch, the 2 big guys fell to the ground, and could not stand up for a while. Awesome. Brother Yi is mighty. More than a dozen members cheered immediately. Zhang Yi retracted his fist and said solemnly, "It is not advisable to stay here for long. Quickly retreat to the 6th area." A woo. As soon as the voice fell, the sound of wolf howling came from the depths of the forest, and then dozens of wind wolves with their feet stepping on the wind vortex rushed out. Trouble. Zhang Yi frowned. Most of these wind wolves are at the middle level. Although they will not pose a threat to him, it will be difficult for his companions to escape. "Brother Yi, what should we do?" a young man said in horror. Swish. Zhang Yi rolled up his sleeves, stood in front of everyone, and said coldly, "I will hold you back. You can run as fast as you can. But, Brother Yi, you go." Everyone clenched their fists and could only retreat to the back. At this time, they could only pin their hopes on Zhang Yi, because if they couldn't stop him, they would definitely become food for the wolf pack. Awoo. Several wind wolves rushed over, and their speed was as fast as a gust of wind. Die. Zhang Yi shouted coldly, and his fists were filled with spiritual energy, and he blasted away, directly blasting away 2 swift wolves, which fell to the ground and became a corpse. Although this boy is young, he is very powerful. Awoo. Just at this moment, 3 swift wolves rushed over. Faced with this situation, Zhang Yi remained calm, first killed to head on, and then killed another one while dodging. The swift wolves that rushed over later realized that this human was very strong and immediately changed their strategy, sending more than 30 companions to chase the fleeing warrior. Swish. Zhang Yi noticed it and stepped on his body skills to blast away the wolf beast that was bypassing from the side. However, a person's energy is limited after all. When he attacked, more than 10 swift wolves had already bypassed him. With their speed, they can catch up in a few breaths. Awoo. A swift wolf caught up first and pounced fiercely on the warrior, who was fleeing at the back. No. Plop. The warrior, who was only a 9th grade martial artist, was knocked to the ground by the swift wolf and then bitten on the neck, blood gushing out. Ah. Screams were heard in the forest. Ashoo. Zhang Yi rushed over like crazy and directly punched the biting swift wolf away with a heavy punch. Yi. Brother Yi. The warrior named Ashu lay on the ground, blood gushing out like a fountain. His pupils gradually blurred, but he smiled with difficulty. Come. Let's be brothers in the next life. After saying that, he died. Ah. Seeing his brother die in front of him, Zhang Yi raised his head and roared in pain. His eyes suddenly turned red. What a pity. Fighting power cannot be roared out by roaring. The swift wolf rushing over from different directions completely ignored him and chased the more than 10 warriors who were fleeing in panic. Pachi. A warrior was cut on the back by a sharp blade and fell to the ground directly. Then, 2 swift wolves rushed over and bit their bodies fiercely. Such terrible scenes were staged one after another. One warrior after another was pounced by the swift wolves, and what awaited them was to be brutally bitten to death, and finally became food in the mouths of the beasts. However, before they died, they were not afraid, but shouted as loudly as they could, "Brother Yi, let's be brothers in the next life. P.S. Thank you, Supreme Treasure, for your generous rewards, and also thank Dream and others for your awards. I have been very busy these days. Although I have seen many readers reward, I have forgotten to thank them every time I update regularly. I'm really sorry. Yesterday, I mentioned the Fantasy Boss essay contest in the main text. Yes, that's right. Today, the list of winners was announced. The Strongest Sect in the Eternal Ages won a second prize. Thank you for your long-term support, and warmly congratulate our Master Jun for winning the second Best Master of the Year award. Chapter 332. For your name's sake, save them again. We'll be brothers in the next life. We'll be brothers in the next life. These words deeply stimulated Zhang Yi's brain, driving him to kill without caring about anything else. AHH. Kill my brother, I'll fight you to the death. At that moment, Zhang Yi seemed to be crazy. Awoo. Awoo. Just at this moment, 6 swift wind wolves came from behind. Boom. Boom. Although Zhang Yi killed 2 or 3 of them, he was still no match for the others. He was attacked by several other wolves, with countless scratches on his back, and he was knocked out. Bang! He hit the stone, and felt a chill on his back. His mind, which had almost lost its rationality, became much clearer. Wow. A mouthful of blood spurted out, and Zhang Yi's eyes were filled with despair. He was injured, and could not help his companions at all. He could only watch his companions being torn apart by the swift wind wolves. For him, the most painful thing in the world is that his brothers, whom he regarded as his own children, were torn apart by the beasts right before his eyes. Pain. Heart-wrenching pain. Zhang Yi wanted the swift wind wolf to rush over and eat him instead of watching his brother being killed and being powerless. He couldn't do that. because the group of swift-winged wolves that were supposed to rush over stopped where they were. Suddenly, an icy breath sprayed down from above. Feeling the cold, Zhang Yi's mind was completely frozen and sober. He hurriedly raised his head and saw a big head similar to a lion beast looking down at him with big eyes emitting cold. The lion beast's nostrils spurted out cold air, making Zhang Yi's back suddenly cold. At this moment, he not only woke up, but also realized that he didn't hit the stone, but the thigh of this beast. Judging from the momentum, this beast is definitely comparable to Wu Zhang. No wonder the swift-winged wolf didn't dare to get close. The swift-winged wolf that was biting the warrior also stopped and looked at the lion beast together with deep fear in their eyes. Zhang Yi would not be excited because the wolf beast stopped biting. Because he knew that if he and his brothers didn't die in the mouth of wolves, they would die in the mouth of lions. In despair, a voice suddenly sounded in his ears. "You seem to be in trouble. Do you need my help?" Zhang Yi was stunned. He tried to tilt his head back and found a man in white sitting on the lion beast with a kind smile on his face. This face, this smile, it was instantly imprinted in Zhang Yi's heart and will never be erased. Whenever he thought of it in the future, he was extremely fortunate to meet this person when he and his brothers were in crisis. "Need," he said without hesitation. Jun Changxiao smiled and said, "Save you, you must agree to one condition of this seat." Zhang Yi said without thinking, "As long as you can save my brother, don't say one, I will agree to 100. Okay." Jun Changxiao smiled and said, "This seat will help you deal with these evil beasts. The one who can speak this strange language is undoubtedly our super handsome Jun sect leader." Coming out of the unknown area, not long after walking, he heard the howling of a wolf and immediately judged that it must be a hurricane wolf, so he rode the ice crystal lion beast and rushed over. What a pity. Many warriors died because they were late. Jun Changxiao would not feel guilty because once you enter the 10,000 beasts mountain range, life and death are left to fate, and he has no obligation or need to save people. Roar. The ice crystal lion beast rushed towards the wind wolf with its limbs spread out and a chilling cold air filled its body. Awoo. The wind wolf was terrified and hurriedly ran in the same direction with its tail between its legs. If they ran separately, they might be able to live a little longer. But if they ran together, they would be courting death. Because the ice crystal lion beast opened its mouth and suddenly spurted out a strong cold current. Whoosh. The airwave carrying countless ice slag swept over, attached to the bodies of the wind wolves, and instantly reduced their movement speed. The biggest advantage of the ice attribute is freezing and deceleration. The advantage of the wind wolf is speed. Once this advantage is lost, half of its martial arts will be wasted. Roar. The ice crystal lion beast roared. Clang. Jun Changxiao drew his sword from its sheath and swung it towards the void, instantly forming an unparalleled sword energy. Pachi. Pachi. The sword flashed and instantly cut off the heads of more than 10 swift wolves. Hiss. Zhang Yi sucked in a breath of cold air. The strength of these swift wolves was only in the middle first or second rank, and the opponent could kill them so easily, so his strength must be terrifying. Yes. How could he be weak if he could ride a lion beast comparable to Wu Zhang? Pachi. Pachi. Jun Changxiao was still swinging his sword, and the swift wind wolf was slowed down and could only become chickens and ducks with their necks stretched out waiting to be slaughtered. In a short time, more than 70 wolf beasts were beheaded, and their bodies fell all over the ground. Swish. Jun Changxiao jumped off the ice crystal lion beast and skillfully peeled off its skin to take out the crystal core. Although the level of the crystal core was not enough to refine the swift wind talisman, they were all wine crystal cores, and their value was definitely far beyond the same level of crystal cores. Zhang Yi lay on the ground and breathed a sigh of relief. Brother Yi. More than a dozen warriors who did not die in the wolf's mouth rushed over. Zhang Yi clenched his fist and said, "How many brothers died?" 6. A warrior whispered. Crack. Zhang Yi's eyes were filled with pain, and he blamed himself deeply. "It's all my fault. I shouldn't have brought you into the 7th area. It was decided by everyone's vote." "Don't blame Brother Yi," everyone said in unison. Before entering the 7th area, the team had voted, and 19 people agreed, and only Zhang Yi opposed. With the brothers' cultivation, it is not enough to break into a higher area. but seeing everyone's eyes flickering with expectation, Zhang Yi could only compromise and decided to come in and take a look without staying too long. As a result, I still underestimated the horror of the 7th area. Blame me, blame me. If I had firmly disagreed at that time, the brothers would definitely not have come in, and they would not have died because of this. Zhang Yi was deeply trapped in self-blame, especially thinking of the scene of Arshu dying in front of him, his fists clenched tightly, and his fingernails dug into the flesh. Roar. At this moment, a roar came from behind. The 2 giant bull beasts that fell down finally stood up and rushed towards everyone with red eyes. Not good. Zhang Yi's face changed drastically. Because of the long battle, a lot of spiritual energy was consumed, and he was scratched and hit by the wind wolf. Even if he could stand up, he couldn't get away. At this time, he didn't consider himself, but hurriedly said, "Get out of the way." Zhang Yi has absolute say in the team, but this time, more than a dozen brothers did not listen, but raised their weapons and blocked him. "Brother Yi," the man in the front said with a serious look, "you have always taken care of us, and we have also been a drag on you. Today, we will protect you with our lives." "Arsehole," Zhang Yi roared, "Run." The 2 giant bull beasts were so powerful that they could not withstand them with their cultivation level. They would definitely be crushed. The 13 warriors remained indifferent to Brother Yi's roar from behind. Their eyes were determined, and they were obviously ready for a bloody battle with the beasts. After collecting the last wind crystal core, Jun Changxiao looked at the group of martial artists, who were not afraid of the 2 giant bull beasts rushing towards them, and said, "They are really a group of fearless guys. My friend." At this moment, Zhang Yi shouted heartbreakingly, "Please save my brother. I, Zhang Yi, am willing to be your slave for the rest of my life." Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi. Swish. Jun Changxiao galloped away with the Zhangyan step, blocking the crowd one step ahead of the 2 bull beasts, and suddenly stretched out his hands to grab the bull horns that were coming at him. The 2 giant bull beasts stopped immediately. Jun Changxiao held the 2 bull horns, dispelling the impact of the force, and said, "For the sake of your name, I will save them again." Chapter 333 Recruiting Zhang Yi. When Jun Changxiao appeared, he grabbed the horns of the bulls with both hands, forcing the 2 huge beasts to stop. The 13 warriors behind him all widened their eyes. 2 6th grade beasts rushed at him angrily, but he could hold them with both hands. How terrifying. Zhang Yi was also dumbfounded. He knew better than his companions that, although these bull beasts were clumsy, they rushed at a faster speed. The impact generated by their own strength and body weight was something that even a peak martial artist would not dare to take with his bare hands. What's more, they were 2 mad beasts. Even a 1st grade martial arts master would probably have to retreat. Shock, rippling in the hearts of Zhang Yi and his friends. What shocked them even more was that Jun Changxiao not only stabilized the 2 bull beasts, but also raised his hands, lifted them up, and then fiercely collided with them. Gulp. Everyone swallowed their saliva. How strong must he be to be able to do it like weighing a chicken? Bang, bang. The 2 bull beasts were hit several times, dizzy, and fell to the ground. Jun Changxiao clapped his hands and said, "Beef is rich in nutrients, much better than wolf meat and jackal meat." Clang. He drew out the cold sword and began to cut it. After a while, the 2 giant cattle beasts were cut up, and nearly 10,000 pounds of beef were put into the space ring. The little dragon lying on his shoulder was suddenly very happy. It can be seen that the little guy also likes to eat beef very much. Zhang Yi and his companions were still in shock. They knew that there were many strong people in this world, but the person in front of them, who looked only 18 or 19 years old, could ravage 2 giant cattle beasts like this. This was really shocking. Zhang Yi, right? Jun Changxiao sheathed his sword and said, "You just said that you saved them and were willing to be their slaves." "Yes." Zhang Yi said, "I said so. A real man keeps his word and will never go back on his word." Jun Changxiao glanced at everyone and said, "Are you and them all casual cultivators?" "Yes." Zhang Yi tried to stand up. Jun Changxiao said, "After you recover from your injury, take these brothers with you to the Strongest Sect in Qingyang County." Strongest Sect? Zhang Yi was startled, and then he remembered that this person called himself this seat. So he was surprised and said, young friend, are you the leader of the Zheng sect, Jun Changxiao? Huh? Jun Changxiao said in surprise, have you heard of this seat? Ah. It's the sect leader Jun. Oh my god, no wonder he is so powerful. To be able to defeat the leader of the Iron Sect, he must be at least a peak martial arts sect. More than a dozen warriors immediately showed admiration in their eyes. The news that the Tigu sect defeated the Iron Sect had spread to the Xinjiang continent long ago, and these wandering cultivators naturally learned about it from various channels. Zhang Yi said in awe, it turned out to be sect leader Jun. I'm sorry. After learning about the deeds of the Tigu sect, he discussed it with his brothers, and even said that, if he joined a sect one day, he would definitely choose this kind of courageous person. Challenge the Heoki sect first, and then challenge the Iron sect. In Zhang Yi's opinion, it's courage. But, he paused and said, why do we go to your sect? Jun Chang smiled and said, of course, we want to join Zheng sect. Do you want me to take them to visit? The expression on Zhang Yi's face froze. Jun Chang smiled and said, if you are not interested in joining, I will not force you. Zhang Yi said, I have admired the Zheng sect for a long time. Sect Master Jun saved me and my brother. As long as you don't mind, I'm willing to join the Zheng sect. He actually had the idea of joining a sect a long time ago. After all, it is not a big deal to be a casual cultivator, but he has never been tempted by a sect. Zheng sect. This sect, which has recently gained a lot of fame, makes Zhang Yi very tempted. Because he is in Huaihang County, he just thought about it and has no intention of joining. What's more, he has to bring a group of brothers. They have ordinary qualifications. If they are not accepted, they will definitely not join. Zhang Yi. He values friendship and loyalty. It can be seen from the situation just now. In this cruel world, such people are not only rare, but also often have a bad ending. But since his companion died just now, he still shouted that they would be brothers in the next life, and his living companions were willing to stand in front of him, which showed that they recognized him very much. Jun Changxiao threw a waist badge engraved with iron bones and said, take it to the Iron Bone Sect, someone will entertain you. Master Jun. Zhang Yi bowed and said, Zhang and others will take their leave first. He first ordered his companions to carry the dead brother on their backs, and then limp towards the 6th area. These people were able to leave alive because they met Jun Changxiao. I don't know how many teams have become food for ferocious beasts because of recklessness and seeking excitement. The system said, why don't you give healing pills? Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes and said, do you think I'm a philanthropist? I give healing pills to everyone I see injured? You gave it to Li Qingyang, and you also gave it to Xiao Ziji. The system revealed his secrets. Jun Changxiao said, I saved Qingyang because I just integrated into the Xinjiang continent, but I'm still a person from another world. In that case, the host is still a kind-hearted person who often helps old ladies on Earth. I can't help them. The system said, what about Xiao Ziji? Jun Changxiao said, it's just because I'm short of a disciple, and I want to try my luck and see if I can recruit a genius. In the end, you bet right. The system said. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, so, doing good things is still rewarded. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task, stand up, and gaining 500 contribution points. Ding. Contribution value to the sect. 790 over 2000. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task, stand up, triggering the hidden reward, and the storage capacity of the space ring is increased to 10 times. Look. Jun Changxiao spread his hands and said, isn't that right? The system said, I'm curious, if the one who attacked them was not the Swift Wolf, and the host had no intention of recruiting this person, would you help them? Yes. Jun Changxiao said decisively. Aren't you afraid of being called a saint? The system said. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, in order to save his brother, he would rather work like a cow and a horse for others. If we don't save such a loyal person, where is justice? Besides, you are just assuming. In fact, this person is not only loyal, but also very strong. If I save him and recruit him into my sect, it is equivalent to adding a tiger general. Judging from Zhang Yi's performance just now, he determined that his qualifications were definitely not low. This kind of disciple is hard to recruit by opening a mountain gate, so since we have met, we must take the initiative to extend an olive branch. The system said, in just 1 year, the host's state of mind has changed a lot, which I didn't expect. Jun Changxiao shrugged and said, I would never have thought that I, who was originally ordinary, would suddenly come to another world and become the leader of a sect. As of now, the system said, the host works hard and does a good job. Nonsense. Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes and said, carrying a bomb all day long, how can you not work hard? This is a great mission bestowed upon this person by God, and you must first get lost. Chapter 334, Intermediate Great Cold Sword. Saving Zhang Yi was just a small episode. Afterwards, Jun Changxiao rode the ice crystal lion beast and strolled in the 7th area, entering several dangerous places one after another. Dangerous places are for martial artists and martial artists. As a super martial arts master, he will definitely walk sideways after entering. Pucci. In an unknown area, a fierce beast with the strength of the 2nd grade was directly beheaded by him with the cold edge sword. The meat is good. Swish. Swish. The sword light flashed, and it was cut into 8 pieces. The top quality meat was stored in the space ring. Night fell again. Jun Changxiao found a clean tree hole to rest and counted today's spoils. In the 7th area, a total of 6 high quality crystal cores were obtained, and a lot of ores and medicinal materials were also found. Although these things are not used for the time being, as long as weapons and elixir formulas are wiped from them all in the future, they will definitely come in handy. Jun Changxiao integrated into the space ring and found that the internal storage capacity has increased a lot, which is more than enough to accommodate 10 giant fierce beasts. Little dragon is short of a lot of food. He murmured, at this time, if the space ring is expanded 10 times, it will be perfect. By the way, Jun Changxiao murmured, why haven't I seen other swift wolves? After searching for a whole day, there must be more than 70 or 80 wolf beasts living in groups. There must be many more. As long as we find them, we may be able to obtain the materials needed to refine the galloping talisman. Ding. A crisp sound came from my ears. This is the prompt sound from the foundry pavilion that the manufacturing is completed. In other words, after refining for most of the day, the middle grade cold edge sword has finally been refined. Swish. Jun Changxiao raised his hand and summoned the weapon he had just refined. It was a 3-foot long sword. The sword body was wider than the cold edge sword, and there was cold air lingering around it, exuding a sharp momentum. Roar. Feeling the spreading cold air, the ice crystal lion beast roared. Not a bad sword. Jun Changxiao said, it's a pity that it has ice attributes. As a fire warrior, he would rather have one that matches his attributes, so that it would be easier to use. Of course, the middle grade cold sword is still very powerful. Jun Changxiao held it in his hand and could feel that it would definitely provide him with good combat power once he fought. Let's go to the 8th area tomorrow, he murmured. You can try it with a high level beast. There are 9 marked areas on the map, which is also the limit that martial artists can explore at present. In fact, there are more in the deeper areas of the 10,000 beasts mountain range, but the beasts there are strong, and there are even spirit beasts. No one dares to go in and risk their lives to map it, unless they are at the level of Martial King. The next day, Jun Changxiao rode the ice crystal lion beast and continued on his way. Soon, he entered the 8th area. Since there was no mark on the map, he could only wander around blindly. Under normal circumstances, the beasts in the dark would definitely jump out to attack, but they were extremely honest and even looked fearful. This is because the ice crystal lion beast, it is at the 2nd grade high level and is a rare ice system. Can't afford to provoke it. Can't afford to provoke it. Roar. After walking for a while, a huge beast finally rushed out of the forest. Judging from its momentum, its strength is at least at the 4th grade high level. I'll use you to test my sword. Jun Changxiao flew into the air, and the cold sword emerged from the space ring. When he held it in his hand, the sword body suddenly flashed with white cold light. Swish. The sword energy swept away. The fierce beast that rushed out was shocked when he saw this. Puff. The sword energy hit its back and felt cold, and there were deep sword marks, and blood spurted out immediately. This fierce beast was of high level, with thick skin and flesh, but it was easily injured. Roar. It roared in pain, and turned to flee. 9 style Dilang sword. Jun Changxiao came forward and hit layers of Dilang. Swish. In the Dilang, he raised the cold sword, and chopped it down, instantly slashing out the 9th style, forming a cold sword light. Puff. The sharp sword light flew up and directly cut the high level 5th grade fierce beast in half. Plop. Plop. The body fell down, and Jun Changxiao landed. A powerful beast comparable to a 4th grade martial master was killed by a single sword. This is truly terrifying. The power of the sword technique? No, the 9 style Dilang sword is only of a low grade level. Even if the 9th style is comparable to an ordinary one, it is impossible to do this. The 4th grade beast was easily killed because of the middle grade handmang sword. TSK. Jun Chang laughed and said, "This sword is much stronger than the 1st grade hand feng sword." Nonsense. The system said, "How can the 1st grade be compared with the middle grade?" Jun Chang laughed and said, "What level of weapons does the handmang sword correspond to on the Xinjiang continent?" The system was silent for a moment and said, "Top grade." Top grade? Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, "Not very high." The system was silent. The reason why Jun Changxiao thought it was not high was because it was not as powerful as the Azure Dragon Crescent Blade. The system collapsed and said, "The Azure Dragon Crescent Blade is a divine weapon, and it also has special effects. How can this kind of weapon be compared with it?" "Oh." Jun Changxiao responded. "The middle grade cold sword is actually very strong, because it has reached the high grade level of top grade. If it is auctioned, it will definitely sell for a sky high price. I'm afraid ordinary martial arts masters can't afford it." Jun Changxiao felt that it was not strong enough because there were the Azure Dragon Crescent Blade and the difficult sword, and these divine weapons, the middle grade cold sword naturally couldn't compare. Of course, the advantage of the sword is that it is light and elegant, and it is very convenient to use, far from being comparable to the bulky Azure Dragon Crescent Blade. There is still a lot of cold iron. You can refine it all and equip the disciples. Jun Changxiao opened the foundry pavilion, increased the number of refinable items to the maximum, and started refining with one click. There are 3 dangerous places in the 8th area. Jun Changxiao strolled for most of the day, holding the middle grade cold sword, and killed the beasts in each of them like a killer, and obtained a lot of high level resources. So far, the trip to the 10,000 Beasts mountain range has yielded a lot of rewards. On the 2nd day, Jun Changxiao entered the 9th area. The beasts living here are all above the 4th grade. Relying on his strong cultivation and the middle grade cold sword, Sect Master Jun still went around without hesitation and explored all the dangerous places. Because there was no team entering, the 9th area had a lot of resources. After searching, a lot of resources that could be refined were gathered. For example, the Overlord Spear and the Iron Shield. For example, various 1st grade elixirs and middle grade healing pills. For example, the Force Increase Talisman and the Insight Talisman in the Talisman Pavilion. Jun Changxiao found a place to rest, opened the medicine cabinet in the Talisman Cabinet, and refined all the materials, as long as there were enough. To be honest, these things are useless with his current cultivation, but they can be used as martial arts resources for disciples, especially the Force Increasing Talisman. Although this talisman can only increase strength by 2 times, each disciple is equipped with one, which can be used to save his life when he encounters danger. Ding. Ding. The prompt sounded all night, and various elixirs and talismans were refined. I won't mention the initial level. More than 300 medium grade healing pills were refined, and more than 100 initial grade force increasing talismans and insight talismans were refined. Continue to go deeper. Jun Changxiao set off and headed towards the area not marked on the map. However, just as he was about to leave, he heard the awu wolf howling coming from the depths of the forest. Swish, swish, swish. One after another, burly wolf beasts rushed over from the dark, and strong wind vortices gathered under their feet. Wind wolf. Jun Changxiao was delighted. The system said, "This is not a gale wolf, this is a hurricane wolf." Chapter 335. Who else? Hurricane wolf. No wonder it looks a bit big and the wind vortex is a bit strong. It turns out to be a different species. Awoo. Awoo. More hurricane wolves rushed out of the forest, and the number gradually increased, finally reaching more than 500. Jun Changxiao just glanced at them and judged from their breath that the lowest was the 5th grade and the highest was the 1st grade. Especially the 2 hurricane wolves that came later. Their physiques were more majestic, and they were at the 5th grade at first glance. Sect Master Jun's eyes suddenly became hot. He came to the 10,000 Beasts mountain range with 2 main tasks. The first was to find food for Xiaolanglang. In the past few days, the space ring has been filled with hundreds of thousands of pounds of beast meat, which is enough for the little guy to eat for a long time. The second is to find wind beasts and obtain wind crystal cores to refine the galloping talisman. After searching for a few days, although he encountered a hurricane wolf, he did not find a crystal core suitable for making materials. Could it be that there are no higher level wind beasts in the 10,000 Beasts mountain range? Just when there was no hope, the hurricane wolf pack appeared. It was absolutely a piece of cake. Swish, swish. Hurricane wolves continued to rush over. Soon, this area was surrounded by wolf beasts in 3 layers, and the number was about to exceed 1,000. Hurricane wolves live in the depths of the 10,000 Beasts mountain range. Because they live in groups and do not have many natural enemies, they have a strong reproductive ability. Roar. The ice crystal lion beast roared, and his eyes were filled with fear. So many hurricane wolves, even an ice beast like it would be afraid. Jun Changxiao grinned. Nearly 1,000 hurricane wolves, most of them are of medium and high quality. If they are all eliminated, a lot of materials for refining the galloping talisman will definitely be screened out. Being surrounded by so many wolf beasts, he can still laugh. If a warrior sees it, he will definitely give a thumbs up and give a word of admiration. Little dragon, little ice sculpture. Jun Changxiao retracted the cold mang sword, took out the green dragon crescent blade and said, "Stand behind me, don't run around." The ice crystal lion beast hurried over. Little dragon fell to the ground, his eyes full of indifference. If the battle form is activated, nearly 1,000 pieces of trash are not enough to warm themselves up. Awoo. Awoo. 2 high grade 5 level hurricane wolves raised their heads and shouted. Swish. Swish. The front row of hundreds of hurricane wolves dragged the wind vortex and rushed over. At that moment, they were like battlefield cavalry, first sprinting towards the enemy. Looking down from above, as the wind vortex was released over a large area, it seemed as if a tide from all directions surged towards the center point, and the scene was spectacular. Swish. Jun Changxiao tightly grasped the Qinglang Yanyu sword, his eyes flashing with a strong fighting spirit. If the wolf pack must be regarded as soldiers on the battlefield, then he is now a general who can defend the pass alone and no one can break through. Sweep the thousands of troops. Jun Changxiao took a step forward, and the Qinglang Yanyu sword swept towards the void under the infusion of power, and immediately formed a dazzling blue light. Swish, the knife light flashed. Dozens of hurricane wolves that rushed over were swept to death mercilessly and cruelly. Swish. After dealing with the target in front, Jun Changxiao turned around, and the azure dragon crescent blade turned with the angle, dragging the green blade light to sweep back again. Puff. Puff. The blood of the stumps flew everywhere. Jun Changxiao only chopped twice, and nearly half of the 100 hurricane wolves of the 5th and 6th grades that attacked were chopped to death. Swish. Swish. However, there were still more than 50 rushing over from different directions. Roar. The ice crystal lion beast roared angrily, and the cold air suddenly spread around its body. Layers of frost instantly stuck to their bodies and slowed down their speed. Die. Jun Changxiao swung his sword and wiped out the remaining wolf beasts. After a few slashes, the 100 hurricane wolves were destroyed. The only way to describe his explosive fighting power is to be strong and terrifying. Roar. The ice crystal lion beast roared again. Witnessing the bravery of its master, its fear had long disappeared without a trace. Awoo. Deep in the forest, a heavy wolf howl came. Jun Changxiao instantly judged that this was definitely the Wolf King giving the order. Sure enough, hearing the Wolf King's cry, the hurricane wolves no longer tried to test and rushed over directly. There were 800 or 900 wolves in this area, and they rushed over one after another, just like a raging flood. Come on, come on. Jun Changxiao held the King Lang Yanyu sword in his hand, and his eyes were filled with strong murderous intent. Swish, swinging the knife away, green light flashes. Puff, puff. One by one, the hurricane wolves were like weeds, being ruthlessly harvested. Heads, broken limbs, and blood splashed in the air. Roar. The ice crystal lion beast roared loudly, bursting with cold air to slow down the hurricane wolf. Without the speed advantage, it can only become a soul under the knife. Whoosh, whoosh, puff, puff. 10 minutes later, there are more than 400 hurricane wolves dead in the surroundings, and the blood gathers into a river, like a cruel slaughterhouse. Jun Changxiao is still swinging the knife to kill, and his white clothes have been dyed bright red by the wolf's blood. Awoo. The call of the Hurricane Wolf King came again. The hundreds of surviving hurricane wolves stopped attacking, and retreated step by step to the back with flickering eyes. This human is too scary. If the king does not give the order to stop the attack, the big guys will continue to rush over, and will definitely be wiped out by him. What? Jun Changxiao stood with his sword across his body and said, "Are you a bunch of evil beasts afraid of death?" He stood in front of a pile of corpses covered in blood, his eyes emitting a cold and fierce light, really like a killer who walked out of hell. AWW. The Wolf King's cry rang out again. Roar. The two high-grade hurricane wolves roared angrily, carrying a stronger wind vortex and rushed over. Although the ice crystal lion beast was releasing cold air, the opponent's cultivation was stronger than his own, and he could not slow down at all. Looking for death, Jun Changxiao raised his sword and went away, suddenly slashing out a green blade. However, the two high-grade hurricane wolves were very fast, and they turned their bodies slightly to avoid it. A hurricane wolf bypassed and sprayed a strong wind vortex shell. Boom. Due to the extremely fast speed, Jun Changxiao was hit on the back, but he stood still. The power of the wind vortex shell was more than 200,000 pounds, but he was wearing soft silk armor inside, let alone pain, and he didn't feel the impact. With the protection of the 3rd level armor, it's so cool. Die. Jun Changxiao stepped on the iron step and rushed over at a very fast speed. Without saying a word, he swung the King Lang Yanyu sword to cut it. Puchy. The hurricane wolf that spewed out the wind vortex shells didn't expect that this human was unscathed, and rushed over faster than itself, and was directly beheaded. Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, another hurricane wolf behind opened its mouth and spit out 3 wind vortex shells in succession. The carrying power is more than 200,000 pounds. Boom, boom, boom. The wind vortex shells hit Jun Changxiao one after another with great precision, as if they were weak and powerless when hitting cotton. The eyes of the hurricane wolves behind were filled with fear. This human is not only very powerful, but also very defensive. Swish. Jun Changxiao rushed over again with the help of the Zhang step. Swish. The knife fell, and the green light swept away. The second hurricane wolf, which was comparable to the 5th grade martial arts master, had no time to dodge, and was mercilessly cut down by the sword. In Death Valley, facing the 5th grade high-grade fire dragon beast, Jun Changxiao had to use the sword that was difficult to put away to kill it. Now, with just a King Lang Yanyu sword, he can easily wipe out the hurricane wolf of the same level. This is the best proof of the improvement of strength. Bang. The King Lang Yanyu sword stood in front of him, and Jun Changxiao said proudly, "Who else?" Chapter 336, Comparing Speed with the Hurricane Wolf King. Although the two hurricane wolves are of the 5th highest rank, they are just relying on their speed advantage. In terms of combat power, they are probably comparable to the middle rank 5th rank martial arts master with an explosion of more than 200,000 Jin, and they are no match for the power type fire dragon beasts. Jun Changxiao is a super 2nd rank martial arts master with a strength of nearly 350,000 Jin, and he also has the Azure Dragon Crescent Blade. What's more, he has also practiced the Cloud Strong Step, so his speed is not weak either. Killing 2 high rank 5th rank hurricane wolves is naturally easy. Abahoo. The Wolf King roared again, and this time he issued a retreat order. Swish, swish. In an instant, hundreds of hurricane wolves fled to the back, one faster than the other. This human is too scary, they can't wait to disappear. Want to run? Jun Changxiao chased after him, while stepping on the Cloud Strong Step. Swish, swish. The azure dragon crescent blade swung frequently, and the sword energy formed, tore the hurricane wolves apart fiercely. Although many still ran away. However, there were at least 100 corpses lined up on the road. What a coward. Jun Changxiao gave up the pursuit, put away the King Lang Yanyu sword, took out the Handmang sword, and began to peel the skins and take the crystal cores. There are at least more than 700 hurricane wolf corpses lying here. It takes a little time to collect them, but the harvest is very good. Not to mention a large number of high quality wolf skins. There are more than 400 wind crystal cores alone. There are 310 crystal cores from the middle 5th grade to the middle 8th grade. There are 54 crystal cores of the middle 9th grade, 12 crystal cores of the high 1st grade, and 2 crystal cores of the high 5th grade. Swish. Jun Changxiao opened the talisman cabinet and clicked on the galloping talisman. The panel presented was 2 over 1 wind high 5th grade crystal core, 12 over 2 wind high 1st grade crystal cores, 54 over 5 wind middle 9th grade crystal cores, 650 over 1 cyclone pill. The refine button below finally lit up after the materials were automatically matched. However, because there are only 2 of the most important high 5th grade crystal cores, only 2 can be refined. It's better than nothing. Jun Changxiao was very satisfied and clicked on the refining. Hoo-hoo. The talisman was mechanically refined. Refining the talisman takes time. Jun Changxiao retracted the panel and looked at the corpses on the ground and said, "These wolf beasts are of good level. The meat should be delicious. Do you want to decorate them? Badgie, badgie." Xia Lang Lang had already stopped in front of the wolf beast corpse and opened his big mouth to bite it. Okay. Then cut more. The space ring given by the system has a large capacity, and there are many spare rings, which can hold a lot of beast meat. Ding. 2 hours later, the prompt sounded. In the space ring given by the system, a galloping talisman appeared out of thin air. Jun Changxiao examined it carefully and found that it was similar to the one he used back then. He couldn't help but say, the effect should be similar to the one given in the gift package, right? Of the 3 talismans in the talisman pavilion, only the 1st grade force increasing talisman has a detailed introduction, while the insight talisman and the galloping talisman do not. Host, you're overthinking. The system said, the efficacy of the talismans refined from the talisman pavilion is mostly reduced, but the duration is compensated. Okay. Jun Changxiao took out the galloping talisman and murmured, "Do you want to try it?" "Sure." The system said, "I'll help the host determine the efficacy and duration." Snap. Jun Changxiao crushed it directly. Whoosh. A stream of special power flowed into his legs, making him suddenly want to run immediately. The system said, the galloping talisman refined by the talisman pavilion is half as effective as the one given in the gift package, but the duration is up to 2 hours. Reducing the efficacy by half and increasing it from 1 hour to 2 hours. It seems a bit of a loss, no matter how you look at it. Little dragon, little ice sculpture. Jun Changxiao said, "You wait here, I'll be back soon." Roar. The ice crystal lion beast responded with a low roar. Swish. Jun Changxiao dragged the after image and disappeared on the spot. Seeing this, the little dragon and the ice crystal lion beast suddenly widened their eyes. Oh my god. The master is so fast that even people can't see clearly. Swish. Swish. Jun Changxiao galloped through the mountains and forests, dragging a shadow behind him. The system analyzed, although it's not fast enough to make the shadow solidify for a while, with the host's current speed, it is already infinitely close. Not bad. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. In fact, the speed is so fast, the blessing of the talisman accounts for one part, and the use of the cloud crossing step also accounts for another part. Of course, the head of the Jun clan who crushed the galloping talisman was not just to test the speed, just look at him chasing in the direction where the group of hurricane wolves fled. Wind beast. Today, I will compete with you to see who runs faster. Swoosh. A flash of light passed by in the forest. If you don't use a telephoto lens, it would be difficult to capture Jun Changxiao's figure. A woo. A wolf howl came from a cave. This is the lair of the hurricane wolf, which is very spacious, enough to accommodate 2,000 to 3,000 wolves. At this moment, the majestic hurricane wolf king stood on a huge rock in the cave, looking up and growling, as if comforting his defeated subordinates. Looking closely at the cave, you will find that there are not only nearly 1,000 hurricane wolves, but also many human skeletons. They are all martial artists who came to explore the 10,000 Beasts mountain range and became food. Oh woo. The hundreds of Gale wolves who were lucky enough to survive the knife followed the king's growl, as if remembering their dead companions. They rarely encounter opponents in the mountains, and so many were killed this time, which can be said to be a heavy loss. Swoosh. Suddenly, a cold wind blew. The howling hurricane wolf king suddenly stopped, looked with cold eyes, and saw a human with a knife standing at the entrance of the cave. It's him. The hateful guy who killed countless of my men. TSK, Jun Changxiao, who came over after hearing the sound, raised his King Lang Yanyu sword and said, I didn't expect there are so many hurricane wolves in the cave. They can be used as materials. Oh woo. The hurricane wolf king roared. Swish, swish. 4 high-grade 5th grade hurricane wolves suddenly rushed over and sprayed wind vortex shells at the entrance of the cave at the same time. Swish, swish. Jun Changxiao dragged the after image and dodged elegantly. Die. Swish. He approached a hurricane wolf in an instant, raised his hand, and chopped off its head with a knife. Puff, puff, puff. 3 more cuts. The heads and bodies of the other 3 high-grade 5th level hurricane wolves were separated. How fast? It was so fast that the nearly 1,000 hurricane wolves in the cave all had human-like fear in their eyes. Wine-type beasts are known for their speed. Jun Changxiao's speed made it impossible for them to capture his figure clearly. Roar. The hurricane wolf king roared and rushed forward on the wind vortex. This human was too strong. Letting his men go was to die, so he had to do it himself. Swish. The hurricane wolf king was of the 9th grade and much faster than the high grade 5th level hurricane wolf. When he rushed over, the wind vortex shells he sprayed out of his mouth carried a force of at least 300,000 pounds. Jun Changxiao was also fast and dodged first. Boom. The wind vortex shell hit the mountain wall directly, instantly shattering a lot of rubble and blasting a big hole. Swish. Jun Changxiao came around, and the green blade light swept over fiercely. The hurricane wolf king dodged with difficulty and rushed out of the cave. There are many tribes in the cave, and fighting here will only implicate them, so the best strategy is to lure that guy out. High quality ferocious beasts have basically opened their minds. Not only can they understand human language, but also think about problems like humans. Swish. Jun Changxiao chased out with a knife. He wanted to see who was faster, the hurricane wolf king or himself. Chapter 337. A gorilla monster shows up. Whoosh. The cold wind blew and pressed the grass down. A man and a beast were facing each other in the open area, about 100 meters apart. Jun Changxiao said lightly, you are worried that you might accidentally hurt your own kind, so you deliberately attracted me out. You are quite smart, you beast. Whoosh. The hurricane wolf king lowered his head, spewing wind vortexes from his mouth, his eyes flashing with cold murderous intent. How about this? Jun Changxiao said, become my contracted beast, and I will spare their lives. This kind of speed type beast, if it can be used as a mount, is definitely much stronger than the purple lightning young tiger. Speaking of which, Sect Master Jun is also obsessed with subduing beasts. The system poured cold water and said, this is a high level 9th grade beast. With the host's current soul power, it is impossible to sign a contract with it. Can't you force it? If the host forces it, the end result will be a serious setback to the soul. Subduing beasts and establishing a contractual relationship is usually based on the fact that the realms of both parties are almost the same. Jun Changxiao's power is stronger than that of the hurricane wolf king, but after all, he is only a 2nd grade martial arts master, 7 levels lower than this wolf beast. Roar. The hurricane wolf king roared angrily and rushed forward, and the wind vortex shells erupted one after another. Jun Changxiao met him with a knife and destroyed all the shells with great force. Swish. Swinging the knife again, a blue light burst out. Swish. The hurricane wolf king hurriedly dodged. But just as he turned around, Jun Changxiao appeared in front of him without knowing when, and slashed down with the Azure Dragon Crescent blade again. Boom. The knife chopped on the ground, leaving a deep knife mark. The hurricane wolf king, who had dodged with difficulty, stabilized his body, his eyes full of horror. Why is this human speed so scary? Swish. Without time to think, Jun Changxiao dragged his afterimage and appeared in front of him again, raised his knife, and chopped it down. Boom. Cut the ground again. The hurricane wolf dodged and felt cold on his back. This person is extremely fast, and the wind vortex shells can't do anything to him, so there is no way to fight. In fact, the Hurricane Wolf King was able to dodge because Jun Changxiao didn't burst out his absolute power, otherwise the knife would only slash faster. Swish, swish, swish. Sect Master Jun continued to sprint over, swaying left and right, and his afterimage spread across the open grassland. The Hurricane Wolf King was so frightened that he could only choose to dodge. Jun Changxiao temporarily gave up the attack and chased after him as if leisurely, saying, "You are a Wind Wolf King, but your speed is too slow." The Hurricane Wolf King was furious and could only open up his speed and dive into the dark forest. It could only rely on the complex terrain to get rid of this human and defend the dignity of the King of Wind Wolf Beasts. Unfortunately, half an hour later, plop, the Hurricane Wolf King collapsed in the forest, panting with his tongue sticking out, and his eyes showed human collapse. Bang! In the field of vision, a green broadsword was inserted in front of it. Jun Changxiao stood in front of it and grinned. "Stand up and run." The Hurricane Wolf King wanted to run, but he was exhausted. It is quite tragic for a Wolf King known for his speed to be chased into such a bad state. "You're not going to run away, are you?" Jun Changxiao waved his hand, took out the spider silk, tied up the Hurricane Wolf King, and dragged him back to the wolf cave. "Since we can't sign a contract, we'll take him back to the sect and tame him slowly." Roar. Not long after they left, a deafening roar suddenly came from the distant forest, shaking the surrounding leaves. The Hurricane Wolf King's eyes were filled with fear, and he tried desperately to break free from the spider silk. Unfortunately, the more he struggled, the tighter it got. Jun Changxiao said, "Don't resist." The system said, "From the roar just now, it's probably a beast comparable to the peak martial arts master. It seems to come from the direction of the wolf cave." "Yes," Jun Changxiao murmured. "Could it be that a powerful beast has set its sights on the Hurricane Wolf Pack? That won't do. That's the prey I'm eyeing." Swish. Jun Changxiao dragged the Hurricane Wolf King and rushed towards the direction of the wolf cave at a high speed. Roar. The roar was still coming. Jun Changxiao was getting closer and closer to the wolf cave, and he could clearly feel the ground shaking slightly, as if it was bombarded by some kind of force. Soon, he came to the area where the wolf cave was located and saw a beast that looked like an orangutan, covered with brown hair, waving a wooden stick and hitting the ground frantically. It was not a wooden stick. It was a thick and big tree. Because the beast was so big, it was like a wooden stick in his hand. The system said, "This is an orangutan savage." "What strength?" Jun Changxiao said. The system was silent for a while and said in a deep voice, "A low-grade spiritual beast." Low-grade spiritual beast. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Fierce beasts are divided into low, medium and high, corresponding to martial apprentices, martial masters and martial masters. Going up, they are called spiritual beasts, which are also divided into low, medium and high, corresponding to martial kings, martial emperors and martial saints. A lower grade spirit beast means it is comparable to a first grade martial king. Fuck. Jun Changxiao exclaimed. There are really spirit beasts in the 10,000 Beasts mountain range. Boom. The orangutan savage raised a thick wood and smashed it down fiercely, and the ground was shaken again. The inside of the wolf cave could not withstand the shock, and began to crumble, forcing the hurricane wolves to rush out. The orangutan savage seized the opportunity, and swung down with a stick, directly crushing more than a dozen hurricane wolves into meat paste. Jun Changxiao, who was hiding in the distance, saw this and immediately understood why it was smashing the ground crazily. It turned out that it was to drive all the wolf beasts in the cave out. How smart. Swish. The orangutan savage reached down with his other hand, instantly sucked out the crystal core in the meat paste, and then put it into his mouth and swallowed it. The system said, "This spirit beast lives on crystal cores. The more it eats, the stronger it becomes." Damn. Jun Chang laughed and said, "Isn't this fucked up?" He had no problem eating the crystal cores of other beasts, but he chose to eat the crystal cores of the hurricane wolf. Isn't that clearly stealing his own things? Boom. Boom. The orangutan savage was still smashing the ground. The stone wall above the wolf cave began to collapse on a large scale, forcing more hurricane wolves to escape. Boom. As a result, they were smashed into meat paste and contributed crystal cores. Woo woo. The hurricane wolf king, who was tied up, let out a strange low roar. His kind was slaughtered by the orangutan savage with a wooden stick. As the leader of the tribe, it must be extremely sad. Big guy. Jun Changxiao said coldly, I will help you get rid of this big guy. How about you submit to me? Woo. The hurricane wolf king made a sound, as if he compromised. At this time, he had to agree, because if he didn't get rid of the orangutan savage quickly, his own tribe would definitely be killed by it. It's a deal. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, I'll help you kill that big guy, and you'll recognize me as your master. Swish. As soon as he finished speaking, he dragged a dense afterimage and rushed towards the ape savage. If the hurricane wolf king didn't agree, sect leader Jun would also take action. After all, the wind crystal core is needed to refine the galloping talisman. If it eats all of them, where can I go to find materials? Evil beast. Jun Changxiao flew into the air, dragging the afterimage and rushing over, and the King Lan Yanyu sword slashed down fiercely. Die. Bang. This knife directly cut the back of the ape savage, but he was shaken away by the gorgeousness. Thump. 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 Jun Changxiao landed on the ground and retreated dozens of steps backward. The palm of his hand holding the knife was numb, and the corner of his mouth twitched and said, this guy's fur is too thick. Swish. He raised the knife again and was about to chop it. The wild ape suddenly turned his head and anger appeared on his ape-like face. He stared at him with a pair of big eyes, and a strong airwave suddenly appeared around him. The airwave was like a strong wind, blowing Jun Changxiao's black hair flying. Damn. The momentum alone is so terrifying. The spirit beast comparable to the king of martial arts is really so terrifying. Swish. Sect leader Jun quickly retracted his King Lan Yanyu sword and grinned. I said I was just passing by. Can you believe it? Believe it, uncle. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 338, Fighting the Spirit Beast. The spirit beast comparable to the king of martial arts was very sturdy, and the aura that burst out from its body alone formed a strong pressure. Jun Changxiao was really inferior to the orangutan savage. At that moment, he instantly judged that in the face of such a powerful behemoth, he must not fight hard. So, he said shamelessly, I said I was passing by. Can you believe it? To be honest, he himself did not believe it. He also thought that the orangutan savage would angrily raise a wooden stick and smash it down. But I swear, I have thought about it 1,000 times, but I never thought that this big guy would suddenly say, believe your uncle. Sect Master Jun was stunned on the spot. Was I scolded by a spirit beast? The system said speechlessly, host, shouldn't you consider why it can speak human language now? A word awakened the dreamer. Yes. How can a beast speak human language and swear? This is unscientific. The system said, the reason why the spirit beast is called a spirit beast is because it has already opened its spiritual wisdom, and it is normal for it to speak human language. Then why not call it a wise beast? How do I know? Just at this moment, the wild ape raised a wooden stick and smashed it down fiercely, and the explosive force easily broke through to 1 million Jin. He was so happy in the crystal core, and was suddenly chopped by someone from behind. He must be angry. Whoosh, the strong airwave pressed down first, breaking through the martial king to condense the spiritual thoughts and gain insight into the opportunity. Although the spirit beast cannot use the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, it can form a kind of spiritual pressure to control the target. This kind of spiritual pressure is similar to the aura. The hurricane wolf that ran out of the cave was suppressed by the spiritual pressure. As soon as it rushed out, it was restrained and then killed by the wooden stick. What a strong momentum. Jun Changxiao hurriedly stepped on the cloud-long step to escape. If it was someone else, he would definitely be disturbed by the spiritual pressure and move slowly, but he was not affected at all and ran out easily. Why? Because the disturbance caused by this kind of spiritual pressure is far worse than the 10 times gravity on the first floor of the training tower. Boom. The ground shook, and the cold wind whistled. Jun Changxiao ran hundreds of meters away in one breath, summoned the Azure Dragon Crescent Blade, and said angrily, "Don't go too far." The system was speechless. "Please. You were the one who took the initiative to provoke it first." The orangutan savage said in surprise, "You can actually ignore the spiritual pressure I released." Jun Changxiao could understand roughly that the so-called spiritual pressure should be the momentum that just suppressed him, so he said disdainfully, "With your spiritual pressure, it's not enough to tickle me." "Really?" The orangutan savage's eyes were full of anger. Swish. One hand grabbed the big tree next to him, pulled it up by the roots, and used it as a stick again, saying coldly, "You disturbed my meal. You're dead today." Step. Step. Walking with heavy steps, Jun Changxiao raised the Azure Dragon Crescent Blade and rushed over with the Zangan step. In front of him was a huge monster that was bigger than the stone man. He rushed over meaninglessly, which was very vivid. If there is a background music at this time, it will be even more perfect. "Go to hell, human." The orangutan savage shouted angrily, and 2 thick trees pressed down fiercely with violent force. Swish. Swish. Jun Changxiao stepped on his body and dragged his afterimage to avoid the bombardment of 2 wooden sticks. He pointed his toes, leaped into the air, raised his knife, and shouted angrily, "Fuck you. This is not a move. This is to express surprise." Because, when the orangutan savage saw him jump up, he raised his big head and hit him hard without saying a word. "Please. You are a spirit beast. How can you use such a despicable move?" Bang. Before Jun's knife was chopped out, he was hit by the orangutan savage's big head, and the whole person was immediately pushed out. Thump thump thump. He fell to the ground and staggered back dozens of steps. Whoosh. The orangutan savage walked quickly, swung 2 wooden sticks, and smashed them crazily. Boom. 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 The ground shook and dust flew. After smashing more than 10 times, the orangutan stopped and said disdainfully, "Little human, you dare to appear in front of me. You really don't know whether you live or die." "Hey." A voice came from behind. "I'm here." Huh. The orangutan turned his head and saw Jun Changxiao appeared behind him without knowing when, with a smile on his face. 3 heroes fighting Lu Bu. The power was poured into the Qinglang Yanyu sword, and he suddenly chopped at the opponent's ankle. This scene seemed familiar. Yes. When dealing with the stone man, Jun Changxiao chopped its ankle like this, and lost his balance. "I don't believe it. You will have the ability to quickly recover your legs and feet like the stone beast." Bang. The Qinglang Yanyu sword chopped directly on the ankle. But the fur was too thick. Not only did it not hurt, but it shook Jun Changxiao out. The orangutan didn't have the stone man's recovery ability, but his level was high and his defense was strong. If he wanted to hurt it, he still lacked a lot of strength. Damn it. Jun Changxiao steadied himself and realized that this guy was very tricky. The system said, if the host didn't have the blessing of the galloping talisman, he would have died by now. This is the truth. With the acceleration of the galloping talisman, Jun Changxiao could avoid the bombardment in advance, otherwise he would have been a meat paste. Die. Whoosh. The ape savage raised 2 wooden sticks and slammed down again. Another cut made it even angrier. What a pity. Although the strength has increased a lot, Jun Changxiao is not controlled by the spiritual pressure and is very fast, so he was able to escape in advance. The current situation is, neither of them can do anything to each other, and the situation is in a stalemate. The bound Hurricane Wolf King, with the help of the angle, saw the human from a distance and was able to compete with the ape savage, and his eyes were filled with humanized shock. That's a spiritual beast. This guy doesn't seem to have a high level of cultivation. How did he do it? Whoosh, whoosh, boom, boom, boom. The ape savage is still bombarding crazily. Even though he knew it was useless, he just thought that, if he was hit, this human would be turned into meat paste. Swish, swish, swish. Jun Changxiao used the Zangan step to the extreme, dodging in the narrow space where the wooden sticks kept pressing down, and finally jumped up again, shouting, "You have to force me to use my trump card." Whoosh. In an instant, the King Lang Yanyu sword released the green attribute, and then the soul of the martial saint appeared behind him. Swish. With the blessing of Master Guana, Jun Changxiao angrily slashed in the air, and the huge green blade light, carrying violent power, swept away in an instant. The orangutan savage looked astonished, and immediately blocked the 2 wooden sticks in front of him. Swish. The green blade light slashed fiercely, not only cutting off the 2 wooden sticks, but also chopped on its chest, and a lot of hair as thick as a rope was immediately chopped off. Zizzy. The knife marks appeared, and blood splattered. Ah! The orangutan savage screamed in pain. The Hurricane Wolf King's eyes widened. He obviously didn't expect that human could hurt such a spiritual beast with super strong defense. Strong defense? In front of Guansheng, all beings are equal. Swish. Jun Changxiao fell down and rushed over again. Hiss. The blade of the green dragon crescent blade dragged a thin knife mark on the ground. Swish. Jun Changxiao jumped into the air, raised his knife and chopped it, and shouted, "I'm Guan Yunchang, the Marquis of Han," shouting. Ha! The strong force roared and burst out, and once again gathered a green knife light that could cross the river. At that moment, Jun Changxiao seemed to have turned into Guan Arai. Although his physique seemed small, the momentum exuded by his body and eyes was daunting. Human. Go to hell. The wild ape's eyes flashed with endless anger. He threw away the broken wooden stick and raised his fleshy big hand to press hard. Swish. The knife energy swept away and gradually disappeared into the void. The palm of the ape savage's hand that was pressing down suddenly showed a deep knife mark, and blood spurted out again. Chapter 339 Our Own People. The second sword that Jun Changxiao swung out with the spirit of the martial saint had the power to cut across rivers. If it were someone else, they would have run away at the first moment instead of daring to take it head on. The orangutan savage also wanted to run, but he couldn't. As a boss level spirit beast in the 10,000 Beasts mountain range, its advantages are its strong body and strength. Its disadvantages are also obvious. It has a large physique and a wide range of attacks. So when Jun Changxiao attacked for the second time, the orangutan savage could only rely on his own strength to break the incoming green sword light. Unfortunately, he didn't do it. A deep and long knife mark was cut on his broad palm, and blood splashed out. Intense pain instantly spread in his body. Ah! The orangutan savage screamed in pain, covering the wound with his other hand, and rumbled and fled to the back. This knife is too scary, and we must evacuate quickly. A spirit beast was scared and cowardly. Swish. Jun Changxiao fell down, and the King Lang Yanyu sword was attached to the grass at an angle, and Guan Arai, who seemed to be a soul body, stood proudly behind him. He did not chase the escaping ape savage, and he wished that the other party would disappear quickly. Why? Because the two slashes consumed a lot of spiritual energy in the spirit core. Jun Changxiao knew that this big guy had strong defense, and when he slashed out with the sword one after another, he did not hold back at all, and completely exploded. How strong is it? If the leader of the Strongest Sect took it hard, he would be killed instantly. Seeing the ape savage disappear from his sight, Jun Changxiao breathed a sigh of relief, and a bit of weakness appeared on his face. Fortunately, the guy was scared away. If he continued to fight, the result would be to use the middle grade force increasing talisman. Sect leader Jun is not a reckless man. He must be absolutely sure to rush out and fight against the spirit beast level beast. What if the middle grade force increasing talisman can't handle it? It's okay, there are still two seal opening talismans, and he can directly use the hard to collect knife. As long as the enemy is not strong in crushing, Sect leader Jun has a trump card in his hand, and no matter how coquettish or how wild, there should be no great danger. Swoosh. The green light dissipated and merged into the green dragon crescent blade. Jun Changxiao came to the Hurricane Wolf King and said, "I helped you deal with that big guy. According to the agreement just now, you have to submit to me." "Of course," he said lightly. "If you regret it, I will make your tribe disappear immediately." The Hurricane Wolf King lay on the ground, his eyes full of bitterness. This guy can defeat the orangutan savages, and he is also a huge threat. Woo. It made a low growl of compromise. The bound Hurricane Wolf King now has two choices, either to surrender or to die. It doesn't matter if he dies. but the whole tribe will be destroyed with him, which is definitely unacceptable. What's more, without this human's action, the tribe would have been wiped out by the orangutan savages long ago, so choosing to surrender also has a component of gratitude. Outside the wolf cave, Jun Changxiao rode on the Hurricane Wolf King, with a smile on his lips. Around him, hundreds of surviving hurricane wolves lay on the ground, lowered their heads, and bowed to him. The Wolf King agreed. As a younger brother, I would definitely agree. Jun Changxiao's subjugation of the Hurricane Wolf King was equivalent to subjugating the entire wolf pack and becoming their master. That feeling was a bit cool. Swish. Jun Changxiao jumped down, strode into the wolf cave, and peeled out 4 high-grade 5-grade crystal cores from the 4 hurricane wolves he had just killed. 4 more galloping talismans can be refined. So happy. Just as he was about to leave, Jun Changxiao unexpectedly discovered that a large gap had been opened deep inside the cave due to the vibration just now. He walked in curiously and was immediately stunned by the scene in front of him. The place where Jun Changxiao was located was a relatively independent large cave, which was full of wolf corpses and wind crystal cores scattered all over the ground. The system said, "This is the Hurricane Wolf Cemetery." The gregarious beasts, when they know that their lifespans are about to end, will die in a fixed area, forming a large cemetery over time. The cave blasted out by the ape savages is the Hurricane Wolf Cemetery. Over time, this cemetery not only gathered the corpses of countless hurricane wolves, but also contained many crystal cores. It's time to make a fortune. Jun Changxiao's eyes became hot. Swish, swish. With a thought, he collected all the crystal cores in it. Because there were too many crystal cores of various qualities, Jun Changxiao was too lazy to distinguish them. He directly opened the talisman cabinet and clicked on the galloping talisman. The number of pieces that can be refined is displayed as 86. Jun Changxiao grinned. Subduing the Hurricane Wolf King and its tribe, and finding so many materials for refining the galloping talisman, it is definitely a great harvest. Awoo. Awoo. The howling of wolves came from the forest. The resting ice crystal lion beast heard the sound and stood up suddenly. Swish, swish. After a while, hundreds of hurricane wolves rushed over from the dark. Trouble. The ice crystal lion beast's eyes were solemn. The master was not here, and so many hurricane wolves suddenly rushed out. If they were attacked by a group, they would definitely be in trouble. Aha. Xiao Lang Lang stood up lazily. It could kill the king of martial arts in its combat form, and it looked down on the wolf beast from the bottom of its heart. Swish, swish. More hurricane wolves rushed out, at least 800 or 900 in number. The most exciting thing was that there were not only adults in the wolf pack, but also a group of wolf cubs. The ice crystal lion beast's mouth twitched slightly. Is it popular to go out hunting with your family? Awoo. The hurricane wolves were still rushing over. Judging from the trajectory of their movements, they were obviously coming towards it in Xiao Lang Lang. Roar. The ice crystal lion beast roared, and the cold air burst out of its body. It was obvious that it was ready for battle. A good man never suffers a loss in front of him. It and Xiao Lang Lang could actually run away. But Jun Changxiao ordered the two to wait here, so even if there is danger, they will hold their ground. This is the spirit of the contract. Xiao Lang Lang spit out a ball of fire, and his eyes suddenly became cold and fierce. With its current small body, it is definitely not able to compete with the hurricane wolf, so it can only use the battle form. Awoo. Awoo. The hurricane wolf pack is still rushing at a high speed. The battle is about to break out. Swish. At this moment, a larger hurricane wolf leaped over with a vortex of wind. Trample. It landed on the ground, and the wind was howling. Seeing this, the ice crystal lion beast's eyes suddenly showed deep fear. This is the Hurricane Wolf King. Judging from the breath it exudes, its strength is definitely far above its own. Xiao Lang Lang's expression also became solemn, and it was obvious that he had realized that the problem was a bit serious. Hoo-hoo. In an instant, flames 2 or 3 meters high spread all over his body. This is to activate the battle form. The ice crystal lion beast was startled by the sudden rise of the flames, and his eyes flickered in astonishment. In its opinion, the lizard-like guy was very weak. How could he suddenly exude such a powerful aura? Whoosh. The scorching flames were still rising, and the battle form was about to change. Don't transform. Suddenly, a voice came. We are one of you. Cap. The ice crystal lion beast was stunned. Xiao Lang Lang also retracted the erupting flames, with surprise in his eyes. Swish. The Hurricane Wolf King lowered his head slightly, and revealed Jun Changxiao who was riding on his back. This. Xiao Lang Lang and the ice crystal lion beast were stunned. Chapter 340. Captain, that guy's out. An empty space. Jun Changxiao sat on a boulder, took out a map from his ring, and began to draw with a pen. He had to add the places he had just passed, so that he could go deeper, and make sure he hadn't been here before. He had been in the 10,000 Beasts mountain range for a few days, and had obtained a lot of food and resources. But there was still plenty of time, so Jun Changxiao had no intention of leaving, and decided to wander around inside for another 10 days or half a month to see if he could get more. Besides, it was rare that he didn't have to manage a sect, so he had to relax a bit. Relaxing in the dangerous 10,000 Beasts mountain range was really awesome. In the distance, hundreds of hurricane wolves surrounded the empty space, either lying on the ground to rest, or standing on trees to be alert. It was absolutely awesome for a wolf pack to be a bodyguard. Xiao Lang Lang and the ice crystal lion beast leaned against it, still with surprise in their eyes. They really couldn't figure out how the Hurricane Wolf King and the Hurricane Wolf Pack could be subdued not long after their master left. Okay. After drawing, Jun Chang smiled and stood up and said, let's go. Swish. Riding on the Hurricane Wolf King, he led the two contracted beasts to the unknown depths of the forest. As for the wolf pack, they were temporarily placed in place and waited. The fifth area. Nearly 600 martial artists in short-sleeved tights gathered here, and their eyes were full of anger. A small team passed by and saw this formation, and they were scared and hurriedly dodged. Captain, a warrior said, that kid must have entered a deeper area and has not left the 10,000 Beasts mountain range. In front of him stood a middle-aged man in a black robe, with a strong aura all over his body. This person's face was slightly gloomy, with 3 scars on his right eye. He looked fierce, and his head was shiny, because there was no hair. How come? The leader of the Blood Wolf mercenary group, with the strength of a 5th grade martial master. He is very angry now, very angry, because the captain and deputy captain of the 3rd team and many of his men were killed by a young man in white. The 10,000 Beasts mountain range is like his own territory. If his subordinates were killed by others, it would be a slap in his face. Boy. How come clenched his fists and said with a gloomy look, don't let me catch you, otherwise I will tear you into pieces, to comfort the soul of my brother in heaven. Swish. He waved his hand and ordered, surround the entrances and exits. Yes. The members of the mercenary group dispersed and blocked several major entrances and exits. The leader of the Blood Wolf mercenary group is here. Once the young man in white is discovered, he will definitely die without a burial place. It's hard for a strong dragon to suppress a local snake. Many big sects came to the 10,000 Beasts mountain range, but they didn't dare to offend the mercenary group. That kid killed their people and was undoubtedly courting death. The entrances and exits are blocked, so it's difficult for us to get in. It's a blessing that the leader didn't vent his anger on us. Do you still want to go in? The small teams in the distance whispered. Some retreated, and some chose to wait, waiting for the Blood Wolf mercenary group to evacuate before going in to explore. The most tragic thing is that the team that entered the 6th area early was trapped inside because the exit was blocked. Boss. The fat man frowned and said, what should we do? Brother Kin thought for a while and said, we can only wait for them to leave and return to Fugi Town. In the past few days, he and his members successfully explored the target area and obtained a lot of resources. What's more fortunate is that the number of people has not decreased. Damn it. The man who had previously looked down on Jun Changxiao said angrily, it was obviously that guy who killed the people. Why did the Blood Wolf mercenary group block the intersection instead of going to find him? That's right, that's right. Someone echoed, instead of going to find the creditors, blocking the road, and not letting us pass, is it reasonable? Brother Kim said, you can go and reason with them. The man quickly shrank his head. He was just talking privately. If he really went to the Blood Wolf mercenary group to reason, he would definitely die miserably. The man said angrily. That guy caused trouble and hid himself, but he caused everyone to be trapped in the forest. In my opinion, he may have left the 10,000 Beasts mountain range a long time ago. The Blood Wolf mercenaries have been blocking us. When can we get out? Hey, I hope no powerful beasts will appear during this period. Just after the Blood Wolf mercenaries blocked the entrance and exit, Jun Changxiao had already entered the deeper part of the mountain range and fought fiercely with high quality beasts again and again. Because no one has set foot in it, all kinds of medicinal herbs and minerals can be seen everywhere. As long as Master Jun sees them, he will put them all into the space ring. The deeper you go, the higher the level of the beasts. Jun Changxiao gradually became overwhelmed. After exploring for 4 or 5 days, he could only choose to return and join the Hurricane Wolf pack waiting there. It's been almost half a month since I came in. Jun Changxiao murmured. It's time to go back. Swish. Riding on the Hurricane Wolf King, he walked towards the marked area on the map. Hundreds of hurricane wolves raised their heads and roared, following behind them in neat rows like soldiers, forming a long line. No. Jun Changxiao murmured. It's a bit high profile. Following behind were the Ice Crystal Lion Beast, the Hurricane Wolf King, and so many hurricane wolves. This was not high profile, it was very high profile. Swish. Jun Changxiao jumped down and said, Big Wolf, let them walk separately in the dark, don't make a sound, and don't let the warriors see them. The Hurricane Wolf King nodded and growled. Swish. Swish. Hundreds of hurricane wolves quickly separated and merged into the dark and dense forest. Little ice sculpture. Jun Changxiao said, you should hide in the dark too. Roar. The Ice Crystal Lion Beast received the order, restrained its coldness, and went into the dark forest. Everything was done. Jun Changxiao and Zhao Lanlan walked out the same way they had come in. Half an hour later, after passing through several forests, they came to the 6th area. Boss. The fat man who was chewing dry food saw someone walking out of the 7th area and said in surprise, it's that guy. Swish. Swish. Brotherkin and the members turned around one after another. The other small team warriors who gathered together also looked over. It's really him. It turns out that guy didn't leave. He's still in the 10,000 Beasts mountain range. The Blood Wolf mercenaries blocked the exit for 5 days and finally blocked him. Everyone whispered. Jun Changxiao also found them and wondered, why are you all together? Didn't you go exploring? What an adventure. They were all preparing to return because they were blocked here by the Blood Wolf mercenaries and couldn't get out. My friend. As soon as he came over, Brotherkin said in a low voice, there are Blood Wolf mercenaries blocking you at the entrance. Please take another way. Blood Wolf mercenaries? Jun Changxiao remembered that he had robbed members of this robbery organization before entering the deeper area. Block me? How naive. Jun Changxiao continued to walk straight. He didn't change the way because there were dense forests around him and he would have to take a long way if he changed. This. Brotherkin was stunned. Didn't he say it clearly? Or did he not hear it clearly? Humph. The man said coldly. I kindly reminded him, but he still walked forward with a stupid face. He is really looking for death. Captain. At the intersection of the area, a member of the mercenary group who had seen Jun Changxiao saw someone coming out and hurriedly shouted, that guy's out. How Kun looked over and said coldly, let him out. Swish. The members blocking the intersection hurriedly made way. Jun Changxiao walked forward, and just as he entered the 5th area, he was immediately surrounded by more than 500 ferocious warriors in 3 layers inside and outside. It's a big formation. He laughed. How Kun sat on a stone, carefully looked at the murderer who killed the 2 captains, then stuck the long knife into the ground and said lightly, boy, how do you want to die for the person who killed me? If I can choose. Jun Changxiao said seriously, I hope to die of old age. Chapter 341, Kill me or become food. If I can choose, I hope to die of old age. After Jun Changxiao said this, more than 500 members of the Blood Wolf mercenary group were collectively stunned. Haha. After a while, everyone burst into laughter. This guy still wants to die of old age. Oh, no, I'm almost out of breath from laughing. Is this the last joke before dying? The small team warriors who quietly approached from the 6th area also twitched their mouths when they heard what Jun Changxiao said. Don't expect to die of old age, expect to leave a whole body. However, with the temper of the leader of the Blood Wolf mercenary group, it is difficult to kill his men and leave a whole body. Seeing them laughing so happily, Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, "Is it funny? Boy." Hao Kun held the handle of the knife with one hand and said, "It's impossible to die of old age. Change another way to die. For example." Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Hao Kun said, "Divide the body into pieces, chop into pieces, peel off the skin and remove the bones." Hearing these ways of death, the warriors of the small team in the distance shuddered involuntarily. He is indeed a ruthless person. It's a bit cruel. Jun Changxiao said. "Of course." Hao Kun said, "If you kneel in front of me and kowtow to confess your guilt, I can give you a very decent death." Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, "My knees do not kneel to the sky or the earth, but only to my parents, who gave birth to me and raised me, not only himself. He hopes that his disciples will also have this kind of integrity." Hao Kun stopped in front of his men and said lightly, "I didn't realize that you are so arrogant, Captain." The men next to him said, "I will cripple him first, and then press him to the ground, and kowtow to you." "Okay," Hao Kun said. From the moment he saw Jun Changxiao, his eyes were filled with indifference, and he didn't take it seriously at all. The members who had escaped death also sneered. If they were to face Jun Changxiao alone, they would definitely be afraid. Now that they have the leader and brothers here, what are they afraid of? Go ahead. Hao Kun waved his hand and said, "Kill this guy." "Yes." The subordinate came over with his fists clenched, with a smirk on his face, as if he was teasing a little girl. Jun Changxiao said, "How are you going to kill me?" The man stopped 2 meters in front of him, and said with a sinister smile, "Of course, I'll crush the hand bones and leg bones, and then cut the tendons of the hands and feet." "I see." Swish. The man suddenly reached out and grabbed. Snap. Crack. The sound of bones breaking came. Because of the Blood Wolf mercenary group members surrounding them, Kinje and others in the distance couldn't see, but when they heard the noise, they realized that the boy was in trouble. Ah! A pig-killing scream came out. Everyone was stunned. This scream didn't seem to be shouted by the white-clothed boy. Or was it too painful, so the voice changed? Many warriors hurriedly turned their bodies and heads to the side, and finally saw clearly with the help of the gaps in the crowd. The screaming man was not the young man in white, but a member of the Blood Wolf mercenary group. His hands were tightly held by Jun Changxiao, and they were bent. Obviously they were directly broken. The corners of everyone's mouth twitched. In danger, he dared to hurt the members of the Blood Wolf mercenary group. That guy is really a fierce man. Bang, bang. Jun Changxiao kicked out with his right foot, kicking the controlled subordinate's ankle with great accuracy. Crack. The crisp sound of bone breaking was transmitted again. Ah! The screams of the subordinate's pain increased a lot of decibels again. No wonder Jun Changxiao asked how to cripple him. It turned out that he wanted to cripple him in the same way. Everyone was immediately horrified. All the bones of the hands and feet were broken. Even if they could be connected, it would greatly affect the martial arts in the future. Bang! Jun Changxiao kicked again, kicking the screaming subordinate out. Clang clang. The next second, the members of the Blood Wolf mercenary group all took out their swords, their eyes flashing with murderous intent. Hao Kun frowned and said murderously, "Boy, you dare to fight back? Whatever, he said coldly, "even if you kneel down and smash your head, I will cut you into pieces today." As he said that, he waved his hand. The members of the Blood Wolf mercenary group received the order, swung their swords, and were about to chop this guy into meat paste. "Wait." Jun Chang laughed and shouted. Everyone stopped instinctively. Hao Kun asked, "Do you have any last words?" Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, "I will give you and your men a choice now." "Give me and my men a choice?" Hao Kun was stunned and sneered. "What choice?" Jun Changxiao said, "Be killed by me, or become food for ferocious beasts." This made everyone confused. Ha ha ha. Hao Kun laughed and said contemptuously, "Boy, do you have the ability to kill so many of my brothers by yourself? If you want to die like this." Jun Changxiao said, "I really have the ability. It's not pretending or bragging, it's really capable." "Arrogant." Hao Kun said impatiently, "Hurry up and chop this guy into pieces and throw him into the forest to feed the beasts." Just because of this sentence, Jun Changxiao said with a cold look, I will let you all feed the beasts today. Oh. How Kun pretended to be very scared and said, your eyes are almost scared to death. What are you waiting for? He returned to his cold expression and said, hurry up and do it for me. Picture. Captain. A subordinate pointed to the dark forest in front and said in a trembling voice, there are beasts. How Kun kicked him on the butt and cursed, have you never seen a beast before? At this time, he found that the other subordinates also showed fear, so he cursed, look at you one by one, how can you get along with me in the future? As he spoke, he turned his head and looked over, his expression suddenly froze, and his mouth gradually opened. Trample. In the dark forest, the hurricane wolf stepped on the wind vortex, and walked out step by step. Isn't it a wolf beast? Haven't Hao Kun and his men seen it before? They must have seen it before, but there was not just one wolf beast, but a large group. Trample. Trample. One after another, the hurricane wolves with blue eyes walked out of the darkness. There were so many that it was difficult to estimate in a short time. What's more terrifying is that among the wolves, there is also a wolf beast with a majestic physique, which is obviously the king of wolves. Captain. A subordinate swallowed his saliva and said with trembling hands, this is the hurricane wolf pack. Hao Kun said in disbelief, aren't these powerful wolf packs in the deepest part? How could they appear in the fifth area? Whoosh. Suddenly, a cold wind blew from the side, blowing everyone's backs cold. He turned around stiffly and saw a lion beast with a body like ice, spewing cold air out of the darkness. This is, Hao Kun said in shock, ice crystal lion beast. Hiss. The men all gasped. There is a hurricane wolf pack on the left and an ice crystal lion beast on the right. The situation is very bad for him. Everyone. Jun Changxiao raised his hand and said, please be at ease, and become food in their mouths. Snap. He snapped his fingers. Chapter 342. Once you enter the arena, can you still retreat? Abahu. The hurricane wolf king stood still, raised his head and gave orders. Roar. Roar. 700 or 800 hurricane wolves roared and rushed over, and the wind vortex under their feet rolled up, instantly forming a turbulent wave. Seeing this, the members of the Blood Wolf mercenary group were so scared that their legs went limp. There were quite a few of them, but their average cultivation was only at the level of a 5th or 6th grade martial artist. How could they be compared with the hurricane wolf, which was at least at the middle 5th grade? Hao Kun was still able to remain calm, and said in horror, are you controlling these beasts? What else? Jun Chang laughed. Hao Kun said in even greater horror, impossible, impossible. How could a human being control the hurricane wolf king, and the hurricane wolf pack? Unless it was his contracted beast. But that was a beast comparable to the peak martial arts master. How could they sign a contract without the same strength? Could it be? Hao Kun's heart was pounding wildly, and he was secretly shocked. He is the peak martial arts master? Pachi. At this moment, the hurricane wolf in the front rushed over in a blink of an eye, directly knocked one of his men to the ground, and then bit him hard on the throat. Swish. Swish. One hurricane wolf after another rushed over frantically. The members of the Blood Wolf mercenary group were completely like motionless scarecrows, easily pressed down, and then bitten mercilessly. It's not that they don't want to run, but they don't have the chance to run. After all, the wind beast that rushed over is known for its speed. Ah, ah, ah. The screams resounded in the mountains. The small teams in the 4th and 6th areas had already fled in fear. So many hurricane wolves, and an ice crystal lion beast, if they were targeted, 10 lives would not be enough to die. Boss. The fat man said in horror, how can this wolf pack living deep in the mountains appear here? How should I know? Brother Kin said. The man said in horror, the hurricane wolf is faster than the hurricane wolf. If the Blood Wolf mercenaries are targeted by them, none of them will be able to escape. Don't worry about the Blood Wolf mercenaries at this time. Let's hide quickly to avoid being discovered by the wolf pack. Brother Kin led his companions to retreat to the previously explored area. Other small teams also hid and prayed secretly that they would not be discovered by the hurricane wolf pack, otherwise they would also end up as food. 10 minutes later, there were no more screams in the 5th area because all the members of the Blood Wolf mercenaries were killed by the hurricane wolves. Hundreds of corpses were placed in a mess, and the blood gathered into a river. The scene was very creepy. This kind of blood wolf mercenary group members who only have the cultivation of martial arts apprentices or even primary martial arts masters are completely worthless in front of the Hurricane Wolf pack. Seeing all his men die, Hao Kun was completely powerless. Because at this moment, he was not only stared at by the Hurricane Wolf King, but also by the Ice Crystal Lion Beast. Although he has a 5th grade martial arts master, it is really not enough in front of a Wind Beast and an Ice Beast. Who? Hundreds of Hurricane Wolves came stepping forward, surrounding Hao Kun in 3 layers. 10 minutes ago, Jun Changxiao was surrounded by a group of his men. 10 minutes later, he was surrounded by a group of Hurricane Wolves. 10 minutes ago, he pretended to be scared in front of Jun Changxiao. 10 minutes later, he was really scared in front of Jun Changxiao, not pretending at all. This reversal was unexpected. Are you satisfied? Jun Changxiao walked over, stopped in front of the Hurricane Wolf King, and gently stroked its mane with no expression on his face. Seeing this, Hao Kun's mouth twitched violently. The Wolf King did not react at all when his mane was touched by humans. If he still doesn't believe that he is being controlled by him, this leader must have a problem with his brain. Little friend. Hao Kun swallowed his saliva and said in horror, I think there is a misunderstanding between us. Calling him kid when he is fierce. Calling him little friend when he is cowardly. So annoying. Jun Changxiao said lightly, since it is a misunderstanding, kneel down and kowtow a few times. I will spare your life. Plop. As soon as he finished speaking, Hao Kun knelt on the ground and said, Hao is ignorant and has offended my friend. Please spare my life. Dung. 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 He kowtowed 3 times in a row, and it was very hard. His forehead was red and swollen. Jun Changxiao was a little confused. This man is the leader of the mercenary group after all, and he is a martial arts master. He kneels down, just because he is told to kneel. Does he still have shame? Does he still have dignity? Hao Kun has face. However, his face is based on being stronger than others. When he learned that his men were killed by a teenager, he felt slapped in the face, so he brought his men to kill them. This is based on being stronger than others. When he realized that Jun Changxiao could control the Hurricane Wolf pack, his face was gone in an instant. As long as he can survive, face, dignity, all can be abandoned. This is Hao Kun's way of survival. This is also the reason why he gradually gathered a group of subordinates and became the king of the 10,000 Beasts mountain range. If you have no shame, you are invincible in the world. Jun Changxiao sighed. My friend. After bowing, Hao Kun said, are you satisfied? Jun Changxiao walked over, looked down at him, and said, for a man like you who can bend and stretch, if I let him go, who knows what kind of trouble he will cause in the future. Hao Kun's face changed slightly, and he hurriedly said, let me live, and I will retire from the world of martial arts from now on. Clang. The sword was unsheathed, and a cold light flashed. Jun Changxiao appeared behind Hao Kun, and the middle great cold sword was stained with a drop of blood. He said, after entering the world of martial arts, can I still retreat? This sentence seemed to be said to himself. From the moment he traveled to the Xinjiang continent and became the head of the Strongest Sect, he was equivalent to stepping into the world of martial arts. He either killed people or was killed. Swish. Sword marks appeared on Hao Kun's neck, and his eyes were filled with disbelief in the deep blood. He had already bowed his head, why couldn't he let himself go? And, he drew his sword so fast that I couldn't see his movements clearly. Sure enough, Hao Kun tried to make a sound. It's a master. Plop. His body tilted, and he fell to the ground. Hundreds of his men died, and Hao Kun died too. From now on, the Blood Wolf mercenary group was eliminated from the martial arts world. To be honest, if he had been tougher, Jun Changxiao might have spared his life. But this shameless and dignified behavior made him feel disgusted, so he gave him a decent death. No movement? Could it be that the Hurricane Wolves left? Fortunately, they didn't come here, otherwise we would all die. The small team that had been hiding in the 6th area for 2 hours had not heard the wolf howling for a long time, so they all came out with courage. Let's go. Brother Kim said, let's go and take a look. Everyone walked towards the entrance of the 5th area with fear. and when they saw the bodies of hundreds of members of the Blood Wolf mercenary group, they all gasped. They had seen dead people and killed people, but it is rare to see so many people die in one area. Huh. Brotherkin frowned and said, there is no body of the young man in white. Brotherkin, why do you care about him? The fat man hurriedly said, let's leave quickly, lest the Hurricane Wolf pack come back. It is not advisable to stay here for a long time. Brotherkin made a prompt decision and said, let's go. Other small teams have returned one after another, and were blocked outside the fourth area. The warriors who wanted to enter the adventure also ran away early. Because the Hurricane Wolf pack appeared, it was destined to be a long time, and no one dared to easily set foot in this area. Thinking of a fierce mercenary group, including the leader, all were killed, and the people on the way back still couldn't calm down. Blood Wolf mercenary group died in a group of wolves. It is worthy of the word Blood Wolf. But how come so many bodies were not taken away? Could it be that the Hurricane Wolf pack only kills people and has no interest in eating people? Chapter 343. He is not dead, he is still alive. Brotherkin and other small teams were frightened and walked out of the 10,000 Beasts mountain range. Perhaps the warriors who came out first told them the news. No one was forming a team at the entrance, and it seemed empty. The Hurricane Wolf pack, which was comparable to a martial artist, suddenly appeared in the fifth area and wiped out the Blood Wolf mercenary group. Anyone who was still standing at the entrance with a stupid face at this time must have a problem with his brain. Boss, the fat man said, we got out alive. Yeah, I can't believe it. The other members relaxed a little. The wolf's sense of smell is very sharp. I was able to hide in the sixth area without being discovered by them. This is definitely a narrow escape. Brotherkin murmured. It's strange. Why did the body of the young man in white disappear? The man said, maybe that guy smelled good, so he didn't take the mercenary away, but took his body away. So, the fat man said, he's pretty unlucky. Brotherkin shook his head and said, high-level beasts appeared in low-level areas. We shouldn't go in for the time being. Then he led the members back to the town. This trip was fruitful and could be used by everyone for a while. He would not consider entering the 10,000 Beasts mountain range for the time being. Many warriors gathered on the streets of Fugi town, and they were discussing what happened in the fifth area earlier. There was half fear and half joy in their eyes. What was terrifying was that high-level beasts like the Hurricane Wolf pack should not appear in low-level areas. What was gratifying was that the leader and members of the Blood Wolf mercenary group were all dead, which meant that no one would come to rob them in the future. The Hurricane Wolf pack was eliminating harm for the people. However, after discussion, everyone attributed the honor to the young man in white. If he hadn't killed the members of the Blood Wolf mercenary group, How Kun would not have brought his men to block it, and the wolf pack would not have been wiped out. Oh, what a pity. Brotherkin said, I don't know the name of the knight, otherwise I would have built a tomb for him. The fat man scratched his head and said, boss, why not name it after the young man in white? Okay. Brotherkin took his members to the clothing store, planning to buy a set of white clothes, and then erect a stone tablet to collect the body of the young man. However, when he passed by an inn, he looked inside intentionally or unintentionally. He stopped immediately. His face was stiff, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. The fat man and the man were at a loss. Following the boss's gaze, they were also dumbfounded. In the inn's dining hall, right opposite the door, a young man in white was eating food and wine slowly. Boss. The fat man was surprised and said, Is it him? Brotherkin rubbed his eyes hurriedly to make sure he was not mistaken, and said in horror, well, it seems to be him. My god. The fat man almost fainted and said, he's still alive. He's not dead yet? The man's mouth twitched and said, all the people in the Blood Wolf mercenary group are dead. How could he still be alive? Who is this? That's right, our Master Jun. After the Hurricane Wolf pack appeared, Brotherkin and others were scared away. So they didn't know that the higher level beasts that appeared in the low level area were summoned by Jun Changxiao. The only one who knew the truth was Kun, but unfortunately, he is dead now. Boss. The fat man guessed, could it be that they look alike? It's possible. Brotherkin said. He really couldn't imagine that the young man in white could escape from the wolf pack. So, the person sitting inside eating may just look alike, not the same person. Thinking about it this way, everything makes sense and it's not so shocking. After eating and drinking, Jun Changxiao paid the bill and left. He saw Brother Qin, so he smiled and said, "What a coincidence, we meet again." Everyone was collectively confused again. This voice, this sentence met again. It must be the young man in white who met in the 10,000 Beasts mountain range before. He is not dead. He is really still alive. When Brother Qin and others were shocked and seemed to be dreaming, Jun Changxiao had already left. He walked out of the town, summoned the Hurricane Wolf King, and then rode on his back, and walked towards Qingyang County in a chic manner. Woo! Hundreds of hurricane wolves followed him, and the scene was spectacular. Sect leader Jun always insisted on keeping a low profile, so on the way back to the sect, he chose to walk in the uninhabited mountains. This trip to the 10,000 Beasts mountain lasted for more than half a month, and the resources obtained by Jun Changxiao far exceeded those in the Death Valley, not to mention the medicinal materials and minerals. He refined more than 80 galloping talismans alone. How Kun, the leader of the mercenary group, is also very rich. Not only is there a large amount of gold, silver, jewelry and materials piled up in the space ring, but there are also more than 100 spirit stones. Awesome. Jun Changxiao said loudly on the way. What's even more awesome is that he obtained a lot of resources and also signed an ice crystal lion beast to subdue the Hurricane Wolf King and its wolf pack. The long ancient road is endless, and there are countless joys, anger, sorrows, and sorrows. Only the camels are still running. Jun Changxiao's joyful singing could be heard in the mountains. Strongest Sect. In front of the mountain gate, Zhang Yi and others stood facing the cold wind with wonderful expressions. They had rushed here a few days ago, but why didn't they go in and starve here? Because there was a protective formation. Jun Changxiao had forgotten that he had already activated the formation before leaving, so Zhang Yi and his brothers could only stand in the wind. Everyone. Li Qingyang stood in the formation and said, "Please go to Qingyang village and wait." "It's okay." Zhang Yi said, "It's the same if you wait here." As a man of affection and righteousness, since he said he wanted to join the Tegu sect, he would definitely show enough sincerity. Woo! Suddenly, a wolf roar came from the bottom of the mountain. Zhang Yi's face changed, and he hurried to the stairs to look down, and saw wolf beasts stepping on wind vortices rushing up. "This is," he said in surprise, "Hurricane Wolf Pack." Ah! The other members heard the words and their faces suddenly changed. As a casual cultivator who has been in the martial arts world for many years, he naturally knows that the Hurricane Wolf is a high-level ferocious beast. "Quick! Quick!" Zhang Yi said, "Hide." "But, the entrance to the mountain is so small, where can you hide?" "It's over, it's over." Zhang Yi suddenly felt desperate. He and his brothers did not die in the 10,000 Beasts mountain range, but died outside. This is really unlucky. Swish. At this moment, a majestic hurricane wolf rushed up first, and then landed in front of everyone steadily. This is the Hurricane Wolf King. Just when Zhang Yi's face became extremely ugly, he was surprised to find that there was a person sitting on the back of the wolf beast, and that person turned out to be Sect Master Jun. Jun Chang smiled and said, "Why don't you go in? What are you doing standing in front of the mountain gate?" Pa. He remembered something, slapped his forehead and said, forgot. I opened the sect protection formation." With a thought, he temporarily lifted the formation. As for Zhang Yi and his brothers, they were still in a daze. "That's not right. Isn't sect leader Jun's contracted beast the ice crystal lion beast? How come it was replaced by the stronger Hurricane Wolf King?" "Don't stand there stupidly." Jun Chang smiled and said, "Follow me in." Zhang Yi came back to his senses and hurriedly led his brothers in. When they just entered the door, the hurricane wolves behind them rushed up and then gathered outside the martial arts field, squatting obediently. "Oh my god." Suzaomo hurried over, keeping a certain distance from the group of majestic wolf beasts, and said in shock, "Sect leader, what's going on?" Jun Chang smiled and said, "The mount's prepared for you." "Mount?" The disciples who had gathered around him were immediately excited. This wolf beast with wind vortexes gathering under its feet was so cool. It would be so cool if they could ride it out. The corners of Zhang Yi and his brother's mouths twitched. How awesome it was to be able to use a high-level wolf beast as a mount for the disciples. Chapter 344 Sect Construction, Level 5. Jun Changxiao brought the Hurricane Wolf Pack back to the sect to use as mounts for the disciples. This extremely fast wind beast, if you can control it well, not to mention riding it out to show off, it is also very fun to travel. To put it bluntly, Jun Changxiao felt that he had a Hurricane Wolf King as a means of transportation, so he must also arrange it for the disciples. If you want to show off, do it together. If you want to travel, travel together. If you want to find a caring master who cares about the disciples, ask where to find it. Suzai almost stood in front of a hurricane wolf, touched its fur with his hand, grinned and said, "So soft, so comfortable." Although the hurricane wolf was unhappy, it did not dare to show its ferocious side. Not to mention that there was Jun Changxiao who controlled the Wolf King. Just from the breath exuded by this disciple, it was an existence that he could not afford to offend. Not bad. If they really fought, Suzaiyama could kick it so hard that it could not take care of itself. Since it had surrendered to Jun Changxiao and the strength of the Tegu sect disciples was very strong, the Hurricane Wolf could only behave very well. Swish. Suzaiyama rode up without hesitation, patted his neck, and said, "Let's go to the mountain." Roar. The Hurricane Wolf roared, spread its limbs, and rushed out of the sect in a whirlwind. Li Fei and Shanqi saw this, and hurriedly rode one each, and chased after it. Swish. Swish. Long Xiang, Yang Yuhua and others also picked one. For a while, dozens of hurricane wolves ran away at the steps of the mountain gate, and then went deep into the Iron Bone Mountain. This is really, the wolves are galloping, sharing the prosperity of the world, drinking and singing out the joy in their hearts. Suzaiyama and others have strong cultivation, and can be fearless. The strength of new disciples is generally low, so they can only stand in front of the martial arts field and watch the group of wolf beasts from afar. Of course, there are 2,000 disciples in the Iron Bone Sect, and there are only 800 to 900 hurricane wolves, which is definitely not enough. King Guiyang. Jun Chang smiled and said, "These people will temporarily live in the sect. You are responsible for arranging them." He wanted to recruit Zhang Yi, but the sect was full. So, he could only let these people live there temporarily, and recruit them after the sect was upgraded. "Yes." Li King Guiyang said, "Please follow me." Okay. Zhang Yi and others hurriedly followed, and their mood still did not calm down. High-level hurricane wolves were used as mounts for disciples. I had never heard of it, and I had never thought about it. Awesome. Too awesome. Brother Yi. On the way, a young man was shocked and said, "Master Jun is so powerful that he can subdue the hurricane wolf pack." Zhang Yi said seriously, "If it's not powerful, can he defeat the Shenquan sect?" Yes. Everyone was relieved immediately. While following Li King Guiyang, they looked at the magnificent hall and their hearts were suddenly excited. It was too unreal that they could become a member of such a tough and promising sect. Zhang Yi was also shocked. What shocked him was not the hurricane wolf, nor the majestic hall, but Li King Guiyang who was leading the way. This man was a few years younger than him, and he could not tell from his aura that he was no match for a martial artist, but his intuition told him that he would not be a match for him if they fought. Especially those disciples who were watching around the wolf pack. Although his level was low, his aura was very strong, and he was definitely not an ordinary martial artist. This Iron Bone Sect was full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Zhang Yi had not seen Xiao Zuji and Yi Xingchen who were practicing in the training tower, otherwise he would be deeply shocked. In the hall, Jun Changxiao sat on the seat of the head of the sect, half lying down and said, "It's still comfortable at home." Ding. 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 Sect contribution value. 2100/2000. Ding. Sect contribution value. 2200/2000. Ding. Sect contribution value overflowed. Hearing the prompt, Jun Changxiao was stunned. The system said, the host has left the sect, and the disciples are still doing the tasks. Due to the distance, they cannot receive the prompt message. Jun Changxiao suddenly realized, I was wondering why I didn't hear the prompt sound during the training in the 10,000 Beasts mountain range. It turns out that this is the reason. At that time, he was still thinking, are left, and those little bastards were lazy and didn't do the tasks. In fact, 10 days after Jun Changxiao left, the sect tasks were all completed by the disciples. Because he, as the host, was not in the sect, the prompt messages and rewards were temporarily piled up. This is not long after entering the sect, it burst out like a gusher. This means that for sect tasks, only the host can receive messages and get rewards for completing them when they are in the sect. Of course, disciples are not restricted. As long as they complete the tasks, they will get corresponding rewards. The sect members are full, and the achievement value is full. Then, Jun Changxiao hurriedly opened the data panel. Sure enough, the upgradable button has appeared on the sect construction. This is a surprise for me. Without hesitation, he hurriedly clicked it. Ding. Sect construction has been upgraded to level 5. Ding. The upper limit of sect members, contribution value, and achievement value has been increased. Ding. The sect's spirit beast pavilion is open. After the prompt sounded, the system data panel suddenly changed. Sect name, Strongest Sect. Sect leader, Jun Changxiao. Sect level, 7th stream. Sect construction, level 5. Sect functions, alchemy pavilion, casting pavilion, talisman pavilion, spirit beast pavilion. Sect skills, Yujinjing, divine grade elementary, Zhangyanbu, upper grade elementary, sound transmission, middle grade high grade. Sect members, 2000/5000. Sect contribution value, 2100/5000. Sect achievement value, 200/5000. Sect main quest, within 100 years. The upper limit was expanded from 2000 to 5000, which made Jun Changxiao very satisfied. After all, if it is full, it can be purchased 5 times in the intermediate mall. This is not the point. The point is the spirit beast pavilion that is opened after the construction and upgrade. Master. Before opening it, Li Qingyang arranged Zhang Yi and others, walked into the hall and said, how to place these wolf beasts. The master brought nearly 1,000 hurricane wolves. Although they can be used as mounts for everyone, they can't just stay in the sect like this. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, we can set aside an area for the hurricane wolves to live in. Right. His eyes lit up and he said, we can let them settle down in the isolation array in the mountains. On the one hand, it can be regarded as returning to nature, and on the other hand, it can protect the array and prevent outsiders from approaching easily. Good idea. Li Qingyang agreed. Jun Changxiao immediately arranged it. Awoo. After receiving the order, the Hurricane Wolf King raised his head and roared, then led the wolf pack to the depths of Tegu Mountain, and found a cave in the isolation array area to settle down. Not only can they be used as mounts, but they can also guard the house. It is definitely a 2 birds with 1 stone thing. However, the system suddenly poured cold water on him and said, these hurricane wolves have a big appetite. It must be a huge expense for the host to raise them. This. Jun Changxiao frowned. Such a powerful high-level beast, raising them is not like raising a group of Tibetan mastiffs. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 345 Spirit Beast Pavilion. Although Tegu Mountain is very large, it is not a dangerous place after all, and there are only animals in it. The so-called animals are ordinary tigers, leopards, jackals and the like. They are very ferocious on Earth, but in Xingyan continent, they can be easily ravaged by opening 3 or 5 meridians. In particular, Xia Lang had been wandering in the mountains for a while before and ate a lot. Now that the hurricane wolves have moved in, there must be not enough food. How can we guard the house without food? We have to think of a way. Jun Changxiao began to think, and came up with an idea and said, we can buy a large number of poultry, such as chickens, ducks, cattle and sheep, and put them all in the mountains and forests, to let them reproduce on their own. The system said, how much does the host have to buy to feed nearly 1,000 hurricane wolves? Jun Changxiao was silent. Some things can't be done by just thinking about them. Don't worry about it for now. Putting aside distracting thoughts, he opened the data panel. He didn't click on the Spirit Beast Pavilion, but first clicked on the construction of the sect. Jun Changxiao clearly remembered that after the construction was upgraded to level 5, more functions would appear. Sure enough, on the small panel, there were no functions until the Spirit Beast Pavilion, but now there are many more functions at higher levels. Sect Construction Level 6, Lingan Pavilion. Sect Construction Level 7, Gangfa Pavilion. Sect Construction Level 8, Lingan Pavilion. Sect Construction Level 9, Shenbing Pavilion. There is also a small line of small words at the end. Only when the sect construction reaches level 9 can you view the subsequent functions. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Can't you just list them all out, so that I can see clearly? Do you have to keep me on edge like the unscrupulous author in Jianghu? The first 5 system functions can also be glimpsed from the literal meaning. For example, the pill pavilion and the casting pavilion, you can see at a glance that they are related to pills and weapons. But what is the Lingan pavilion after level 6? Do you know? Jun Changxiao said. The system said, I don't know, and I won't tell you even if I know. Jun Changxiao could roughly guess that the 7th level Gangfa pavilion might be related to martial arts skills. As for the 8th level Lingan pavilion, he was confused again. In order to honor the heroes who fought together with him to conquer the world, Li Shimin of the Tang dynasty drew their images and hung them in a high pavilion, and they were called the 24 heroes of Lingan Pavilion. Jun Changxiao murmured. Good history. The system said. Could it be? Jun Changxiao had a flash of inspiration and said, there are 24 heroes of the Tang dynasty in this Lingan Pavilion. Can they be summoned after it is opened? All those who can enter the Lingan Pavilion are famous ministers and generals, such as Li Jing, King Kaiang, Cheng Yaojin, and Yachi Gong. If they are summoned out, let alone developing a sect, there will be no problem in conquering the world. The system said, the host has a big imagination. What is the Divine Weapon Pavilion? Does the Divine Weapon refer to the Divine Weapon or the Divine Weapon Heavenly General? If it refers to the Divine Weapon Heavenly General, it is similar to summoning, and the function of Lingan Pavilion is obviously overlapping. The system said speechlessly, the host has not even upgraded to level 6, and it is too early to think about level 9. That's right. Jun Changxiao stopped speculating, and clicked on the Spirit Beast Pavilion. A small panel appeared, but there was no 3D projection like the alchemy furnace or casting table. It was completely empty. However, there were a few lines of words listed below the panel, namely, Primary Wind Control Technique, Primary Fire Rain Technique, Primary Thunder Technique, Primary Solid Earth Technique, Primary Beast Pill. Jun Changxiao was confused and asked, what does this mean? Click to read the introduction. The system said. Jun Changxiao did as he was told and clicked on the Wind Control Technique, which showed the introduction. Beast Skill. Primary Wind Control Technique. Effect. Allows the contracted beast to comprehend the primary wind control technique skill. Conditions. 0/1 Wind Beast, 60/10 Wine Type 9th Grade Crystal Cores. The Comprehend button that appeared at the back was grey, and it was obvious that the comprehended skill could not be performed because the conditions were not met. He clicked on the Primary Fire Rain Technique again. Beast Skill. Primary Fire Rain Technique. Effect. Allows the contracted beast to comprehend the Primary Fire Rain Technique skill. Conditions. 1/1 Fire Beast, 20/10 Fire Grade 9 Crystal Cores. The Comprehension button at the back is bright. Jun Changxiao murmured. Xiao Lang Lang is a fire beast, and he got a fire crystal core in the 10,000 Beasts mountain range, so he meets the comprehension conditions. Not bad. The system said. In fact, it knows the function of the Spirit Beast Pavilion, but it doesn't tell the host, which is also intended to make him not rely too much on himself, but to explore on his own. Jun Changxiao clicked on the Primary Thunder Technique again. Because he had a contracted beast, the Purple Lightning Tiger Cub, the conditions met the requirements for a Thunder Beast, but without 10 9th grade Thunder Crystal Cores. The comprehension button was grey. Seeing this, Sect Master Jun finally understood. The so-called Spiritual Beast Pavilion is to allow his contracted beasts to comprehend skills. It doesn't seem to work very well. Jun Chang smiled. The system said speechlessly. It's too arbitrary to say that it doesn't work very well before the contracted beasts comprehend it. Okay. Jun Chang smiled and retreated to the initial stage of the fire rain technique, saying, then let's try it. Click on the comprehension button. Cap. The fire dragon lying on his back suddenly stiffened, as if it was in a sluggish state. A little while, the little guy came back to his senses, and surprise appeared in his eyes. Strange. How did I comprehend a fire skill without knowing it? Jun Chang smiled and said, no change. Swish. The little dragon suddenly rushed out, and then stood on the martial arts field, and hot flames instantly erupted from his body. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, do you want to change the combat form? Whoosh. The scorching flames were still rising crazily, and the surrounding temperature rose sharply. Swish. Whoosh. Whoosh. Suddenly, balls of fire erupted from the flames, and blasted in all directions. The scene was quite spectacular. Could it be? Jun Changxiao said in astonishment, is this the primary fire rain technique? Bang, bang, bang. The fireballs fell on the stone slabs of the martial arts field, and immediately blew out densely packed charred deep pits. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, the power of each fireball is at least 50,000 Jin. Xiao Lang is at the middle first grade level without activating the combat form. Being able to release 50,000 Jin of fireballs is equivalent to being comparable to a peak martial artist of the general level. Incredible, incredible. The system said, this is the primary fire rain technique, which can quickly control the fire beast and directly display it. Awesome. Jun Changxiao was amazed. Just click on the button, you can understand it without serious practice. Absolutely cool. Hoo. Xiao Lang liked the fire rain technique very much. He released flames again, and bombarded the martial arts field. However, after 3 explosions, he fell to the ground exhausted, and his whole body was twitching. The primary fire rain technique is very powerful, and can bring its strong combat power, but it will also consume a lot of energy. Jun Changxiao clicked on the primary solid earth technique again. The conditions showed 1/1 earth type beasts, 32/10 earth type 9th grade crystal cores. The comprehension button was bright. That's not right. Jun Changxiao said in astonishment. I didn't sign a contract with the Hurricane Wolf King. There are no wind type beasts in the conditions of the primary wind control technique. How can there be earth type beasts in the solid earth technique? The system said, don't forget, the host has a contracted beast. An ice crystal lion beast. That is obviously an ice type beast. How can it be related to the earth system? No. Suddenly, Jun Changxiao thought of something. His expression suddenly stagnated, and he said in surprise, wild boar pepper. Chapter 346. Mud cannot be helped. Jun Changxiao currently has 4 contracted beasts. In addition to Xiao Lang, the other 2 rely on the leader ball, and 1 personally signs the contract. The ice crystal lion beast is an ice beast, there is no doubt about that, and Xiao Lang and Zidian cub tiger correspond to fire and thunder, so the only one who can comprehend the primary solid earth technique is wild boar pepper. The first contracted beast that was subdued by relying on the first grade leader ball actually has no sense of existence in Jun Changxiao's heart. It's understandable. Apart from being able to roar, it has no combat power at all. Look at Zidian Cub Tiger, look at Ice Crystal Lion Beast, and then look at Xiao Lang. Which one is not stronger than it? What does this mean? Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, Wild Boar Pepper is an earth beast. Wrong. The system corrected, it is an earth fantasy beast. That's right. No matter how weak Wild Boar Pepper is, it is still a fantasy beast. Since the conditions are met, let it comprehend. Jun Changxiao clicked on the comprehension button and took out the first grade leader ball. Go, Master Ball. Whoosh, bang. Wild Boar Pepper appeared on the martial arts field and then lay lazily on the ground as if he had not woken up from his sleep. Jun Changxiao was furious. This is a life and death battle with the enemy. What's the use of summoning it? Hoo. Little Pepper stood up slowly, his eyes full of doubts, as if to say, Master, why did you summon me? Jun Changxiao almost couldn't help it and sacrificed the King Lang Yanyu sword to kill this guy. Stir frying, and steaming. Don't stand there stupidly, he ordered. Release the skills you just learned. Little Pepper understood, and the laziness in his eyes dissipated, replaced by extreme seriousness. Right. This is my contracted beast. Master Jun was very curious. What skill is the primary hard earth technique? Judging from the name, it should be defensive, right? Puff. Suddenly, a voice came, and only a turbid air came out from the back of Wild Boar Pepper's butt. Jun Changxiao was petrified instantly. I asked this thing to release a skill, and it released a fart. Just fart if you want to. You are sleeping on the ground again. What does that mean? Wild Boar Pepper tried hard. But even though she farted hard, she didn't activate the primary solid earth technique, so she gave up directly due to her personality. Master, calm down, calm down. Master, that's your contracted beast. How can you bear to kill it? Master, put down the knife, let's talk it out. In the martial arts arena, Li Qingyang and others desperately held Jun Changxiao, who was holding the Qinglang Yanyu sword. Wild Boar Pepper had no idea that her master wanted to kill her, and she was still sleeping on the ground, with a big bubble gathering in her nostrils. Ah! Jun Changxiao screamed. Bang! The Qinglang Yanyu sword flew directly over, and stabbed in front of Wild Boar Pepper's big nose, which immediately woke it up, and scared it into the master's ball. Seeing this bear, Master Jun was so angry, that he almost vomited blood. If I had known, I would have thrown it more accurately, and killed this useless contract beast. The other 3 contract beasts were all rare beasts, each one more powerful than the other. Only the Wild Boar Pepper disappointed Jun Changxiao. There was no other way. Since it had surrendered, and was his first contract beast, he could only keep it. Under the persuasion of the disciples, Jun Changxiao calmed down, and put the leader bull into the space ring, thinking to himself, I won't take it out in the future to embarrass myself. Sitting on the leader throne in the main hall, he opened the panel of the Spirit Beast Pavilion, and clicked on the Primary Beast Pill. Item, Primary Beast Pill. Effect, a nutritious pill. After taking it, the beast can not only quickly replenish energy, but also will not feel hungry for 10 days. Conditions, beast meat 156470/1 Jin, hunger filling grass 0/1 plant. Fuck. Jun Changxiao said with wide eyes, this thing is good. System. Just now, I poured cold water on it, and said that the hurricane wolf had a big appetite, and it was a big expense, but I was slapped in the face again. There's a lot of meat, but not enough grass to fill our stomachs. Jun Changxiao stroked his chin and said, let's go to the city later. Qingyang. He said, call Zhang Yi and the others over. The construction has been upgraded to level 5, and the upper limit of members has been increased. They must be recruited as disciples. Yes. Not long after, Zhang Yi and his 13 brothers came to the main hall. After registering their names one by one, and stamping the sect seal, they successfully became disciples of the Strongest Sect. Jun Changxiao was not disappointed. Zhang Yi, who valued friendship and loyalty, not only had the cultivation of a 7th grade martial artist, but also had a top grade spiritual root. It would be very difficult to recruit such an outstanding talent if the mountain gate was opened. Ding. Sect members. 2014/5000. Ding. Sect contribution value. 2100/5000. Qingyang. Jun Changxiao said, give them school uniforms and sect rules, and arrange disciple rooms. Yes. Li Qingyang withdrew with Zhang Yi and others. Sect Master Jun murmured, this open Spirit Beast Pavilion can only allow your contracted beast to learn skills, and it doesn't seem to have much use. The use, he said, is beneficial to the disciples. For example, the Alchemy Pavilion and the Casting Pavilion, the elixirs and weapons refined, can be used by himself and the disciples. The system said, whether the Spirit Beast Pavilion is of great use depends on whether the host can refresh better products in the mall in the future. The function of building and upgrading is equivalent to providing a platform. Whether it can play a higher value depends on the products in the mall. Some time ago, Jun Changxiao brushed out the formula of the middle grade cold sword. Because there is a casting pavilion, it can be made after enough materials. And this is the embodiment of subsequent value. I understand. Jun Changxiao did not complain anymore. He came to the medicine hall, put the medicinal materials that had matured during this period into the space ring, and began to mechanize alchemy. By the way, Why didn't I see Jiangzi? Our elder Jiang is now in the training tower, forgetting food and sleep, and immersing himself in tempering the body. He has been shaping in the shaping room for a while, and his improvement is getting more and more limited. A few days ago, Li Qingyang asked him to go to the training tower. As soon as he came in, and felt the 10 times gravity, his heart was shocked again. It turns out that the shaping room is just the beginning. There are still ways to temper the body stronger in the sect. So cool. So happy. If gravity had not been added 10 times according to the cultivation level, it would only last for 1 or 2 hours in the early stage. Jiangzi wished he could spend 24 hours in the training tower. After Zhang Yi and others were assigned, they took the body shaping pills, and felt that their bodies and strength had improved a lot. They were also stunned. Brother Yi, a warrior, could hardly control himself and said, "Could this pill be the body shaping pill made by the AI family in Huayang City?" Zhang Yi suppressed his shock and said, "I heard that, after taking that kind of pill, it will improve the body in strength. It must be what we eat. My god." Someone said, "Many big forces can't buy pills with money, but we each ate one." They didn't know that the body shaping pills that are hard to buy outside are countless in Jun Changxiao's space ring. It's no exaggeration to say that it's okay to give it to the disciples as candy beans. Chapter 347 Wolf Riders Hall. The next day, Jun Changxiao came to Qingyang City to buy hunger-filling grass. To his surprise, this herb was completely common in the streets. He bought thousands of plants in a few drugstores. In fact, hunger-filling grass is not a precious medicinal material. It can be easily collected in many mountains and forests. When warriors go to the wild to train, if they encounter food shortages, they often collect it locally to fill their stomachs. Therefore, it was named hunger-filling grass. Later, someone discovered that livestock also like to eat this herb, so drugstores are equipped with it. It can be regarded as a kind of inexpensive and high-quality feed. After buying enough hunger-filling grass, Jun Changxiao opened the Spirit Beast Pavilion and began to refine primary beast pills in large quantities. Primary beast pills are faster than refining primary healing pills. Dozens of them were refined in just a short time. Speaking of which, can't you just leave it to the disciples to buy hunger-filling grass? Why do you do it yourself? In fact, Jun Changxiao came to Qingyang City to buy materials, and he also planned to visit City Lord Z to reminisce about the past. Going to challenge the Strongest Sect. Accompanying me, I must bring gifts. Not much. It's okay to give a few medium-grade healing pills. Hey. In the reception room, after accepting the pills, Ziguang sighed. Jun Chang smiled and said, "Is City Lord Z worried about something?" "I just got the news," Ziguang said with a worried look on his face. "The 6th level Zhenyang County has already started a war, and maybe it will soon involve our Qingyang County." "Really?" Jun Chang smiled. Although the Tegu sect has an intelligence agency, it is only in a small area, so it doesn't know that the current southwest Yangzhou is already in flames. Many higher level counties have joined the war, and the fighting is very lively. The 9th level Qingyang County cannot be compared with the big counties. Once the war spreads, it will definitely be swallowed up easily. Alas. Ziguang said, "The world is not peaceful, and only the people are suffering." Jun Changxiao said, "It is really awe-inspiring that City Lord Z can have such a mentality. Those in power want to achieve hegemony, and all of them are at the expense of thousands of people. Very few people really care about the people." The same sentence. Jun Changxiao said, "My Tegu sect is in Qingyang City, and we are the people of Qingyang City. Whoever dares to invade will fight for our homeland." With this sentence from Master Jun, Z is relieved. City Lord Z said, "Of course." He added, "If we can ask the people of Kangshan Sect to temporarily garrison Qingyang City, perhaps we can deter those forces with malicious intentions." Jun Changxiao understood immediately. He felt relieved, because the Tegu sect and Kangshan Sect had an alliance. "Thank you, City Lord." Jun Changxiao said, "If there is really a force that wants to attack our Qingyang City, even if we have the Kangshan Sect as a backer, it may not have any effect." Ziguang was silent. There are 4 fifth-rate sects, and 1 fourth-rate sect in Zhenyang County. If they really want to swallow Qingyang County, they will definitely arrange Kangshan Sect first. Alas, I was too naive. Jun Chang smiled and said, when war is inevitable, what we can do is to defend our homeland by ourselves. Zi Guankan said bitterly, Qingyang County is too weak. How can it compete with those high-level counties? Very inferior and helpless. After all, the gap in strength cannot be made up by just talking. Jun Chang smiled and said, although it may not be able to compete with the high-level counties, we must try anyway, otherwise there will be no hope. That makes sense. City Lord Z said, Z is going to strengthen the city, recruit martial artists to form a legion, and hope that when the war spreads, we will have the strength to defend Qingyang City. That's fine. Jun Chang smiled. He didn't have any brilliant ideas about war, and it was difficult to give any strategies. The two chatted for a while and said goodbye. The mention of Kangshan Sect during this conversation made Jun Changxiao think it's time to visit the 5th and 6th sects. Eldama had visited before, and since they were allies, it was reasonable for him to return the visit. Moreover, a 5th-rate sect must have a more complete system. As the leader of a sect, it was natural for him to go and inspect it. Back at Tegu Sect, all the primary beast pills were refined. In order to test the effect, Jun Changxiao summoned the foodie Zhao Longlong and asked him to eat one pill. It turned out to be very effective. The greedy Zhao Longlong did not go to the cafeteria the next day. He wandered around the sect and looked very energetic. Jun Changxiao said speechlessly, if I had known that there was such a pill in the Spirit Beast Pavilion, why would I have gone to the 10,000 Beasts mountain range to find food? Awoo. Awoo. In the jungle of Tegu Mountain, there were bursts of wolf howls, and then Suzumo and Li Fei were seen riding a hurricane wolf each. The two were speed-type martial artists, and they must be very happy to have a wine-type beast as a mount. Jun Changxiao put the refined primary beast pill in the wolf cave and said, it should be enough for them to eat for 3 to 5 months. After walking out of the wolf cave, he saw Suzumo and Li Fei running around in the forest, and suddenly thought, why not build a wolf cavalry regiment? The war in Yangzhou in the southwest has already started, and it may affect Qingyang County. If a group of troops riding wolf beasts are trained, it should be of great use. Do it when you think of it. Sect Master Jun returned to the sect, summoned the disciples, and selected 100 disciples with good cultivation. These people are not only equipped with hurricane wolves, but also equipped with overlord guns, iron shields, and soft silk armor. They are fully armed. Of course. Sect Master Jun is not just to deal with the possible war. He thought, why not set up a wolf cavalry hall? When you are in the rivers and lakes, how can you not be stabbed? In the future, when disciples go out and have conflicts with disciples of other sects and develop into a fight, the disciples riding wolf cavalry can undoubtedly arrive faster. With such a sudden inspiration, the Tegu sect has a new branch called Wolf Riders Hall, and Li Luoqiu is temporarily the part-time head of the branch. Ah. Li said depressedly, another Wolf Riders Hall head has been assigned. Do you think I'm not idle enough? The more capable, the more work. Jun Chang said with a smile. Luoqiu was speechless. Jun Chang said with a smile, from today on, you will be responsible for their training, and strive to control the Hurricane Wolf as quickly as possible. The head of the sect has suddenly formed a Wolf Riders regiment, and a Wolf Riders Hall. Could it be that he wants to develop an army to dominate the world and expand the territory? Li Luoqiu said. Jun Chang said with a smile, I have no intention of dominating the world, but this world is not peaceful. I have to make some preparations, at least to have the power to protect myself when I encounter danger. Not bad. Li Luoqiu agreed deeply. Living in troubled times, we should be cautious and cultivate a group of well-equipped disciples. It is very necessary. Therefore, Ali Hall Master will not only have to train the members of Xiao Hall, but also the members of Lanqi Hall. It is really a case of more work for the capable. As for Jun Changxiao, he went to Huayang City, bought a lot of grass to fill his stomach, and then visited the head of the AI family. When he came back, he put the plan of going to Kangshan Sect on the agenda. Chapter 348 Visiting Kangshan Sect. Kangshan Sect is located on Kangshan Mountain in the south of Qingyang County. This mountain is one of the few places in the county with abundant spiritual power, and its attribute strength is even higher than that of Shengquan Mountain. In terms of potential, Kangshan Sect is higher than Shengquan Sect, but it lacks a more ancient foundation. On this day, the weather was sunny and the autumn was refreshing. Sect Master Jun brought core disciples such as Xiao Zuji and Yi Xingchen to the gate of Kangshan Sect. How did they get here? He rode the Hurricane Wolf King, and his disciples rode the Hurricane Wolf. It would have taken 2 or 3 days to get here, but it only took half a day. This is one of the benefits of using a wind beast as a mount. Of course, in order to keep a low profile, before arriving at Kangshan, Jun Changxiao let the wolf beast hide in the mountains and forests. Master, looking at the spiritual energy gathered halfway up the mountain, Suzaomo exclaimed, the attributes of heaven and earth here seem to be more concentrated than those of Shengquan Mountain. Jun Chang smiled and said, our spiritual energy is also growing stronger with the cultivation of medicinal herbs by Wei Lao and others. Sooner or later, it will become a Feng Shui treasure land. The AI family auctions elixirs every month, not only sending money, but also a large number of high quality seeds. Now a good cycle has been formed, and the cost of improving the ecological environment is not large. Who is coming? Climbing up the mountain gate along the ancient stairs, several Kangshan disciples asked. Jun Chang smiled and said, the master of the Strongest Sect, Jun Changxiao, brought a group of disciples to visit the Kangshan Sect. The Strongest Sect? The Kangshan disciples looked surprised. One of them said, it turned out to be Master Jun. Please wait, I will go to inform you now. Because of the alliance, these Kangshan disciples behaved very gently. A little while, Ma Yunteng hurried out, bowed and smiled. Master Jun, what wind brought you to my Kangshan Sect? Spring breeze. Jun Chang smiled. Ma Yunteng waved his hand and said, please come in. Although the Kangshan Sect's foundation is weaker than that of the Shengquan Sect, the sect's architecture also has a long history, and it exudes an ancient and heavy momentum. After entering, Jun Changxiao observed and praised, Elder Ma, your Kangshan Sect is really magnificent. Thank you, Elder Ma said. On the way to the main hall, Jun Changxiao saw many disciples again. They were all majestic and heroic, which showed that their strength was not weaker than that of the disciples of the Shengquan Sect. Sure enough, to become a fifth-rate sect, they all have hard strength. Although the Tegu sect defeated the Shengquan sect, there is still a big gap compared to this kind of sect. In terms of the number of disciples, it is not as good as it. After a quick look at the Kangshan sect, Jun Changxiao realized that the Tegu sect still had a long way to go to become a powerful sect. Entering the main hall, Ma Yunteng apologized. The sect master is in retreat and cannot greet us in person. I hope you don't mind, Sect Master Jun. Elder Ma is welcoming me, which is a favor to me. How could I mind? Jun Changxiao said. One should be polite to those who are good to him. If it were Kinhoran, he would definitely confront him directly without any consideration. Sect Master Jun. Ma Yunteng said, you have to stay a few more days in my Kangshan sect this time. Do you provide food? Of course. The two smiled at each other and then had a pleasant conversation. Sect Master Jun. After a while, Ma Yunteng frowned and said, although the demon sect has temporarily given up targeting the Tegu sect because of the competition for the mineral veins by the Taken sect, it is still a big hidden danger. Not bad. Jun Changxiao said this, but he didn't take it seriously in his heart. With the sect protection formation, if the demon sect dares to cause trouble again, the worst that can happen is that they will continue to shrink. Ma Yunteng said, in my opinion, Master Jun can visit the Shangguan family in Zhengyang City, which may help your sect resolve the crisis. Shangguan family? Jun Changxiao knew that Zhengyang City was one of the 8 major cities in Qingyang County, but he had never heard of this Shangguan family. Ma Yunteng said, although the Shangguan family is not strong, their family's old man Shangguan once taught at the Xianyu Academy in Xianyu Royal City. Although he has now resigned, he is still highly respected. Xianyu Academy, a place to cultivate warriors. Although it is not a sect family, it gathers many outstanding talents and the strength of the top leaders is also very strong. It is said that the current dean of Xianyu Academy has reached the peak level of martial emperor and is a top-ranked strongman even in Xinjiang continent. At least 40% of the martial kings in southwest Yangzhou come from Xianyu Academy, so it is regarded as a martial arts holy land. If Master Jun is not the leader of a sect and wants to make a living in the other world, going to such a university to practice is definitely the best choice. Of course, it is very difficult to enter Xianyu Academy, not to mention the qualifications. The rule of only recruiting students every 3 years alone made many young people miss the opportunity to join. For example, Li Qingyang. At first, the head of the Li family hoped to send him to Xianyu Academy, but there were still 2 years before the enrollment, so he could only settle for the next best thing and choose to join the sect. Why not wait for 2 years? Sorry. The Xianyu Academy stipulates that only 16-year-olds are admitted. When the next enrollment is held, Li Qingyang will be 18 years old and will not be admitted at all. Therefore, if you want to become a student of Xianyu Academy, you must not only have good qualifications, but it is also particularly important to be of the right age for enrollment. 300 years ago, there was a genius with a top-grade spiritual root in Zhenjiang City. Because of his qualifications and age, he was admitted to Xianyu Academy. Although he did not perform too amazingly in the academy where geniuses gathered, he still worked hard to practice martial arts, and finally passed the assessment, and became a tutor in the academy. This person is called Shangwen Hang. He is also the only tutor in Qingyang County who has taught in Xianyu Academy. During Shangwen Hang's teaching career, he has trained many geniuses, who eventually became either the lord of the city or a high-level force. It can be said that his students are all over the world. Ma Yunteng mentioned him, hoping that Jun Changxiao could visit him and use his energy to deter the demon sect. Of course, the demonic sect may not be afraid of Shangwen Hang. However, they will definitely be wary of Xianyu Academy. After all, this non-powerful organization has a deep foundation and strong connections, and it must not be provoked casually. After learning about Shangwen Hang from Ma Yunteng, Jun Changxiao secretly said, if you want to get rid of the entanglement of the demonic sect, it is necessary to visit him. He is not afraid of this evil sect. But if the other party is determined to destroy him and sends masters to block the door, he must be very depressed. Finding masters to deter the demonic sect is undoubtedly the best and most effective way at present. What a coincidence. Ma Yunteng said, in half a month, it will be Mr. Shangwen's birthday. Master Jun can prepare gifts to celebrate his birthday. Oh. Jun Changxiao responded. If the demonic sect can be deterred, and the sect can develop safely for a few years, this birthday must be celebrated. Dusk is coming. Jun Changxiao and his disciples were placed in an independent courtyard with extremely high specifications. The next day, he inspected the Kangshan sect very well. This kind of sect with rich background has a complete set of systems and facilities, such as training rooms, cultivation rooms, and martial arts pavilions. In particular, the elders of Kangshan sect have clear division of labor, either teaching disciples or being busy. Jun Changxiao felt that his own sect was already very formal and professional, but compared with this fifth-rate sect, he realized that there were still many shortcomings. Master Jun. Ma Yunteng came over and said with a smile, are you interested in letting the disciples of our two sects compete? This, Jun Changxiao said with a smile. He knew the strength of the disciples, and it would be a bit bad if he wanted to abuse the disciples of Kangshan sect out their lives. Ma Yunteng said with a smile, it's just a competition. Stop at a certain point. Okay. Jun Changxiao agreed, and brought Zhao Zuji and others to the martial arts arena. At this moment, the disciples of Kangshan sect have gathered, and they all looked at the disciples of Tigu sect with a strange look. These people have good momentum, but can they really defeat the disciples of Shengpen sect? PS. 8 more chapters are here. Please recommend. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Please reward. Please. Chapter 349. We are allies after all, so fight with ease. Although the Kangshan sect disciples learned about the Tigu sect disciples' record from the elders, they were still a little hesitant. 74 wins was too exaggerated. Not to mention them, even if it was widely circulated in the outside world, there were still many warriors who had doubts. Unless they saw it with their own eyes, everyone would be convinced. Of course. Because of the alliance, even if the Kangxian sect disciples had guts, they would maintain a friendly attitude and would not look down on the Tigu sect disciples. Master Jun, Ma Yunteng said, you bring 5 disciples, and we will compete in 5 games. Okay. Jun Chang smiled. This time, in order to show respect, in addition to Li Qingyang and Lu Qian, the 5 most core disciples were brought with them. They are Zhao Zuji, Yi Xingchen, Su Xiaomo, Li Fei and Qian Qi. Sun Hao. Ma Yunteng said, you will play in the first game. The Kangxian sect disciples were stunned. Senior brother Sun is a direct disciple. If he is allowed to play in the first battle, can it be the turn of the inner disciples? Ma Yunteng also wanted his inner disciples to fight, but as a witness to the challenge to Strongest Sect, he knew that the disciples brought by Jun Changxiao were very powerful. So, he must take it seriously. Kangxian sect did not have as many core disciples as Strongest Sect, but they were not inferior to the other side in terms of cultivation and qualifications. Sun Hao, who went to fight, was a 7th grade high-level martial artist with a top-grade spiritual root. And he was just the bottom of the direct disciples. Qian Qi. Jun Changxiao said, go to fight. Yes. Qian Qi walked towards the martial arts arena. Just after taking 2 steps, he heard the head of the sect say with the sound transmission technique, after all, we are allies. Fight slowly. Got it. Qian Qi thought to himself, how should he fight slowly? The central area of the martial arts arena. Qian Qi and Sun Hao were a few meters apart, and both sides introduced their names. Begin. Ma Yunteng shouted. Please. Please. The 2 exchanged politeness again, and then they set up their formations. Swish. Sun Hao rushed over first with his body skills, and the dense fist prints, accompanied by the spread of spiritual power, were instantly displayed. Mysterious fist. At least 60 or 70 punches, absolutely the ultimate comprehension. As soon as senior brother Sun started, he used his trump card. The mysterious fist is a very superior fist technique of the Kangxian school, and only the direct disciples can practice it. Sun Hao used it directly, and immediately shocked his fellow disciples. How should I fight slowly? Facing the dense fist prints, Qian Qi kept thinking about the instructions of the sect master Jun just now. Forget it, forget it. Pretend that I can't avoid it, and use my body to take it hard. Thinking of this, Qian Qi pretended to use his body skills, but before he could, the fist shadow came directly. Bang, 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 bang. A burst of bombardment, the spiritual energy burst out, covering the martial arts field. Ma Yunteng smiled. Before the competition, he repeatedly warned Sun Hao not to underestimate the disciples of the Tigu sect and to use his strongest trump card when fighting. Sure enough, he was very attentive. He exploded as soon as he attacked, not giving his opponent any breathing space. What does it mean? Does it mean that the direct disciples of the Kangxian sect are very strong? Wrong. It means that Qian Qi acted well, and didn't let Elder Ma see that he did it on purpose. After a while, the spiritual power dissipated. Qian Qi stood in place, his face slightly ferocious. Does it hurt? It doesn't hurt at all. But since the head of the sect wants him to let go, he must cooperate. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. This guy's facial expression is very dramatic, but after being hit so many times, he should at least take 2 steps back. Qian Qi also realized it, so he hurriedly staggered back a few steps. Ah. He covered his chest and said, it hurts, it hurts. Everyone's foreheads were black. Brother, you retreated after being attacked for a while, and then shouted in pain. This reaction arc is too long. Jun Changxiao collapsed and said, poor acting. There was nothing he could do. As a disciple of the Strongest Sect, he spent most of his time practicing martial arts, and had never learned to act. Master Jun, Ma Yunteng said seriously, although it's just a friendly exchange, please ask your disciple to take it seriously. He was not a fool, and naturally saw through Qian Qi's poor acting. Since you want to fight, fight seriously. Deliberately letting him win is more like a humiliation. This. Jun Changxiao had no choice but to send a voice message. Don't take it easy, fight seriously. Yes. Qian Qi received the order and his eyes suddenly became serious. Swish. This time, he was the first to attack. He stepped on the cloud step and approached Sun Hao first, and then used the explosive fist. The head said, "Fight seriously." So the power of this punch is very strong. Not good. Sun Hao was shocked and could only use his arms to block it. Bang, the strong force came like a storm. Bang, bang, bang. Sun Hao, who took it hard, suddenly had a ferocious look on his face, and his body retreated uncontrollably to the back, and finally left the martial arts arena. The whole audience was silent. The expressions on the faces of the Strongest Sect disciples became exciting one by one. How strong power must be exploded to knock out senior brother Sun with one punch. Ma Yunteng was also confused. Sun Hao was on par with Ran Hui of Strongest Sect in strength. This disciple named Shanqi fought with Ran Hui at that time. Although he won in the end, he also fainted after stepping down. Now it has only been more than a month. How can he directly defeat his own disciple? Elder Ma didn't know that. After returning to the sect, Shanqi's qualifications not only reached the top grade, but his cultivation also broke through to the 6th grade martial artist. He had the same qualifications as Ran Hui in the fight, but the level difference was quite large, so it was difficult to win. What about now? With the leading spiritual root qualifications in the closer realm, it is normal to be defeated in seconds. Elder Ma. Jun Changxiao said awkwardly, "Thank you." He collapsed in his heart thinking, "I asked you to be serious, not to beat him directly." In the first competition, Sun Hao was completely defeated. After watching the battle, the disciples of Strongest Sect finally understood why the elders let the disciples fight. Defeating senior brother Sun with one punch, this is really terrifying. Peng Jun. Ma Yunteng said, "You go to fight." He sent out the second disciple, whose cultivation was one grade higher than Sun Hao. Xiao Fei. Jun Changxiao said, "You go." Yes. Li Fei tiptoed and walked towards the martial arts field. After the two exchanged their names, the duel began under the announcement of Ma Yunteng. Peng Jun also remembered the elder's words, and when he started fighting, he used his strongest moves directly. Unfortunately, facing Li Fei, who was good at speed, even if he allowed him to switch back and forth between fist and palm techniques and fight with great momentum, he didn't even touch the corner of his clothes. Iron Bone shadowless kick. Bang, bang, bang. Li Fei used his unique kicking skills, and after a series of wild kicks, he kicked Peng Jun, who had reached the 8th level of cultivation, out of the martial arts arena. Ma Yunteng's mouth twitched violently. This expression will temporarily stay on his face as Suzaomo, Yi Xingchen and Xiao Zuji appear one by one. Bang! Suzaomo kicked out, and the third direct disciple of Strongest Sect flew directly into the martial arts arena. "Thank you." He bowed his hands in a coquettish manner. Bang! After Yi Xingchen came on the stage, he was even more excessive. After the two sides announced their names, before the opponent announced his name, he directly punched him off the stage. It took 5 seconds. Jun Changxiao collapsed. "This is our ally, can you give him some face?" Xiao Zuji behaved relatively gently. After entering the arena, he fought with the direct disciple named Bron for dozens of moves, and finally relied on his brute physical body to shock the opponent out. 5 rounds of competition ended here. To be honest, absolutely one-sided crushing. Ma Yunteng's expression remained frozen. In his heart, he howled miserably. "If I had known that I would lose so badly, I would not have taken the initiative to challenge the Iron Bone Sect." Chapter 350, Ways to Make Money. Ma Yunteng thought that, since the Tegu sect was visiting, it would be better to let the disciples discuss martial arts and learn from each other. Of course, he also knew that the disciples of the Tegu sect were very strong. Otherwise, the disciples of the Strongest sect would not have lost so badly. But he never expected that after 5 rounds of competition, his disciples lost more miserably than the Strongest sect, and they were completely powerless to resist. It's normal. In the more than a month since returning from Shenkun Mountain, although Sect Master Jun was very busy and neglected cultivation, the disciples did not relax at all. Yi Xingchen has broken through to the 7th grade. Xiao Zuji, Suzaomo, Li Fei and Shanqi have entered the 6th grade. This group of disciples who grew up with various resources, the increase in strength brought by each grade improvement is very terrifying. Not to mention the Kangxian sect. If we go to the Shenquan sect to challenge again, we can still beat them into a pile of shit. Sect Master Jun. Ma Yunteng bowed and said, the strength of your sect's disciples is really strong. Ma really admires you very much. Although the disciples lost very embarrassingly, they have a good mentality and don't take it to heart. What's more, since Shenquan sect lost, it's not shameful for me to lose. Jun Changxiao said modestly, it was just luck. Luck. Ma Yunteng said, Master Jun, I have a request. Please tell me. Jun Changxiao said. Ma Yunteng hesitated for a moment and said, please help my disciples with some difficult martial arts problems. No problem. Jun Changxiao said readily. He had refined many insight talismans in the talisman pavilion. A long table was placed on the martial arts field, and Jun Changxiao sat upright, looking like a martial arts master. The disciples of Kangxian sect had lined up in a long queue, their eyes full of excitement. The master of the Tigu sect had taught Elder Ma before, and had a very deep understanding of martial arts. It was an absolute honor to receive his guidance. Next, after a while, Master Jun shouted. The Kangxian sect disciple who had been instructed before left with joy. After some guidance, he had a deep understanding of martial arts and his shortcomings. If he could overcome them, his martial arts would definitely be a step closer. Brother. In the small pavilion in the distance, Shinki collapsed and said, the master has such a deep understanding of martial arts. Why haven't we seen them teach us? Yes. Li Fei scratched his head and said, sometimes when I asked about the sect's skills, I was sent away by the master in a few words. They didn't know that Master Jun also wanted to give instructions, but the pitfall of the inside symbol was only useful for the martial arts of the Xinjiang continent, not the martial arts of them all. Suzaomo said, with our current strength, what else can the master teach us besides relying on our own practice to become stronger? This sentence hit the point. Systematic martial arts are simple and easy to learn, and you can comprehend them by yourself. Jun Changxiao doesn't need to give instructions at all. He just needs to provide various dance resources for the disciples to make them stronger. Next. Master Jun, who has transformed into a martial arts master, is dignified and solves the martial arts problems of the Kangxian sect disciples one by one. Yi Xingchen was deeply shocked. He had been listening, and many people had spoken out their skills, and before he had even started to analyze them, the headmaster had already given professional comments and revisions. This was impossible without profound martial arts attainments. As the reborn Knight Emperor, his strength was his extremely high understanding of martial arts. But now he was shocked by Jun Changxiao, and could hardly hold back, which was enough to show that the insight talisman was far better than a martial emperor in terms of insight into martial arts. Of course, this was limited to low-level skills. After all, the insight talisman used by Jun Changxiao was only of the first grade. If it rose to a higher level, it would definitely not be as good as a genuine martial emperor like Yi Xingchen. Headmaster Jun sat in the martial arts arena, giving instructions from morning to dusk, and used up 10 insight talismans during this period. Thousands of disciples of the Kangxian sect benefited greatly, and were deeply impressed by his martial arts attainments. Not just them. Many elders also came to ask for advice. After suddenly understanding, they all admired and said, Master Jun is indeed a martial arts master. The way of martial arts is as profound as the stars in the sea. I only know the basics. Jun Chang said with a smile. The corners of everyone's mouth twitched. Even a person with such profound knowledge of martial arts would be described as knowing the basics. At my current level, I'm afraid that I can't even touch the basics. Jun Changxiao and his disciples stayed in Kangxian sect for 5 days. During this time, he often discussed with Ma Yunteng the way to develop the sect. Master Jun, Elder Ma said, if a sect wants to remain prosperous and continue to grow, excellent disciples are the most important. Your sect has met this requirement. What else? Jun Changxiao said. Ma Yunteng thought for a while and said, secondly, there must be a stable source of income, so that it can be converted into martial arts resources. What do you mean by economic source? When 3 people walk together, there must be a teacher among them. Jun Changxiao is like a humble student who is earnestly seeking advice. If it were another elder, he might not give him good advice. But Ma Yunteng is in charge of the sect's economic income, so he said directly, establish an industry in the city. This. Jun Changxiao fell silent. Although he has a deep cooperation with the AI family and can earn a lot of money every month by selling elixirs, as the sect continues to grow and has more disciples, there are many places to spend money. Ma thinks. Ma Yunteng said, in a world where martial arts are respected, the most profitable businesses are elixirs, weapons, and spirit stones. If Sect Master Jun can choose one of the three and has a good enough supply, he will surely make a fortune. Jun Changxiao bowed and said, listening to Elder Ma's words is better than reading for 10 years. To be honest, he was very tempted to set up an industry in the city. In order not to attract attention, the elixirs refined by the alchemy pavilion are destined not to be sold in large quantities, so the upper limit is so high. If you set up industries everywhere in Qingyang County and make a name for yourself, it means you have a stable source of income. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task, benefited a lot, and gaining 200 contribution points. Ding. Sect contribution value 2300/5000. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Discussing ways to make money from others, I actually completed a hidden task. This was absolutely unexpected. After staying in Kangshan Sect for another 2 days, Jun Changxiao led his disciples to leave. Before saying goodbye, Ma Yunteng reminded him, Master Jun, there are still 8 days before Mr. Shangwen's birthday. Don't forget to celebrate his birthday then. Yes. Jun Changxiao bowed and said, goodbye. After that, he led his disciples down the mountain, summoned his mount, and returned to the sect as quickly as possible. After returning to Tegu Sect, Master Jun kept thinking about where he should start, since he wanted to buy an industry. Pills? No. The pills in the alchemy pavilion are too powerful. If they are sold, they will definitely be targeted by thieves. Weapons? No. Even if the first grade cold sword is placed on the Xinjiang continent, it is still very eye-catching. There is no need to consider the talisman. There is no such item in this world. If it is sold, the sensation it causes will definitely be stronger than the body-shaping pill. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.